Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you join us today for our second East Bay Community Foundation Inclusive Economy Showcase. It's really going to be a delightful program today, especially because we're going to interact with all of you and have opportunities for you to interact with our founders and the investors. And so we're super excited. We have several hours and we thank you for being here with us. I do want to add that if you can't join us for the entire time, we are recording it and we'll make that recording available. I also want to start with a little bit of housekeeping and say that we would encourage you to leave your video on so we can see your beautiful faces, and mute yourself unless you're talking. And you know all of that, but also I want to encourage you to interact. And so today there'll be several times when you can submit questions and or actually go into breakout rooms and interact with different founders in the breakout rooms. I also want to absolutely start our showcase with an acknowledgement that all of us who work at East Bay Community Foundation, and that's 47 strong team members, we are on the lands of the Muwekma Ohlone people, and we honor and respect their ancestral caretaking of the land. And I would encourage you all to understand and acknowledge the land that you are on today in the chat, if you would care to. I also want to add that for anyone interested, the Ohlone people are not a historical tribe. They're also very active today, and I would encourage you to go to their website and look at some of the programs they have around land preservation and sacred sites and the Shumi land tax. So thank you to the Muwekma Ohlone people. In addition to our housekeeping, I want to absolutely, again, encourage you to be interactive today. What we're so excited about is we listened to your feedback from the last showcase and really added some investor voices. We added breakout rooms where we can interact with founders. And this is really about all of us coming together to build an inclusive economy. And so again, we're just excited to have you here. With that, I want to actually dive into the program. Here's the agenda. So if you have to come in and out, you kind of know where we're at. We are going to have 2 rounds of founder sessions where 5 and 5 founders will be presenting, and I'm telling you, when I saw some of their presentations, I broke down in tears. So I encourage you to stay and hear the presentations from some amazing founders, all based in the Bay Area and the East Bay. And we hope to close on time, right around 2:30 Pacific time. So we're honored today to have with us our CEO, James Head, who predated me at East Bay Community Foundation, and he's been our leader for about 6 years. And under James' leadership, the organization has really sort of rededicated and committed to racial equity and racial justice. And I couldn't be prouder to work for James and the East Bay Community Foundation. So James, please do say hello.
Thank you, Val, and good afternoon. Well, part morning for us on the West Coast, but almost afternoon to everybody. Really great to have you be part of this session of our Inclusive Economies Showcase. Want to welcome you, but also want to first thank our staff who have put this together and continue to work on what I think is one of the most important areas of focus for the foundation around inclusive economies. And want to give a special thanks to Elizabeth of our staff, who I think took on the lion's share of making this happen. And then to Val, who you've met before and preceded me in speaking, but also to Selena, who is our primary staff person who works on our inclusive economies work. I would just share with you sort of 2 points. The first is we take a very broad view of inclusive economies. While it is also partly about the fact that in the Bay Area, as you all know, the income inequality gap is higher in the Bay Area than in most other parts of the U.S. And continues to be so. And then secondly, the issue, especially of employment opportunities, we understand that the real engine that drives employment opportunities, not just in the Bay Area, but everywhere, are entrepreneurs and small businesses. And that is partly why we have such a focus on the entrepreneur community and great and innovative ideas from entrepreneurs that you'll hear from today. But also the fact that those entrepreneurs need assets to be able to scale up and to do exciting and cutting edge work. And the foundation is about trying to make sure that our donors and that our institutional partners can be there and can partner with them and support them in that work. So I hope that you will enjoy today. I'm fairly sure that you will, and really appreciate your interest. And again, remember that the foundation is a place for those of you who are interested where we can assist you and can partner with you to make sure that the inclusive economy that we all want, which is one that in which everybody who wants to be involved in the economy can take advantage of it. So with that, Val, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, James, and thank you for your leadership at East Bay Community Foundation. I wanted to just next do a quick overview. At our last showcase, I talked about impact investing sort of very broadly across all asset classes. But today I'm really happy to be able to talk a little bit more about the areas that we are developing impact investing at East Bay Community Foundation. We have three main areas. And one is in our portfolio impact investing, and that's with our assets that are invested in the market. And we're very serious about being mission aligned there, as well as in our community investments. And so starting to really shift those assets, we've actually rewritten parts of the investment policy statement and prioritize moving our assets into BIPOC and women managers with always a strategy around racial equity. And that's sometimes thought to be kind of a challenging and bigger step because there's a lot of finance and investment fiduciary responsibility around our funds that are in the market, but we're excited that I think we're leading many foundation and endowment movements to really move that money into mission alignment. We also have donor impact investing, and that's exciting because it is legal under IRS regulations, but it has to have a codified process. And so we did take the time and work to codify our process. And that's where donors can direct investments into impact companies or organizations that are not grants. And what's so nice is often there are matching programs from other foundations. So there's a leverage factor where the money often is 10 to 1, 30 to 1. So it's a fantastic way to promote scalability for our inclusive economy. And then finally, what we are involved with today, and as James mentioned, what Sabrina heads at East Bay, our inclusive economy strategy, where we want to foster an inclusive economy in the East Bay very locally. And that is all about supporting locally based businesses and financial institutions. And just looking at the community we live in, that means supporting our BIPOC and women founders. And we do that through this showcase, but also the Real People's Fund. And I encourage you to visit our website if you want to learn more about any of these programs or become more involved with East Bay in general. But with that, I'd like to move on. And at our last showcase, we asked for feedback from everyone, and there was a lot of requests for information, kind of, let's pick the brains of investors. And I think that was a great idea. We took your advice, and today we're honored to have 3 investors with us who are all active in building an inclusive economy in their own way. They're all involved with impact investing, but they all come from a very different style or different type of fund. And so I think today we're going to get a very broad range of information to understand how they think and what they're doing. And so I'm honored to have with us today Steve Roland, who's a partner at Burke, Williams, and Sorensen. So he's an attorney, but he is a DAP holder at East Bay Community Foundation. and he is making impact investments from his staff. We also have Charles Hudson, who is the managing partner at Precursor Ventures, which is a venture capital fund, but it's very different and innovative, in my opinion, in that they write first-time checks, early stage, and they support a lot of BIPOC and women founders. So very untraditional venture capital. And finally, we have Erik Schultz, who is the co-founder of SK2, which is a family foundation. And their foundation looks at impact investing through the lens of integrated capital. So how can they put innovative and creative financing packages together? They could be grants, they could be investments, they could be loans, and they are involved in many, many types of impact investments. And so I want to welcome all three of you and just thank you so much for being here and sharing some of your time with us. So how we structured this today, and I want to encourage all of you in the audience to put into the chat any questions you have for the investors. I'm going to ask them sort of two questions that we've prepared for, and then we want to be able to open it up to your questions. And Elizabeth will be monitoring the chat and helping us with that. So my first question for each of our investors is to first introduce yourself. I gave the quick byline, but introduce yourself, maybe how you became an investor, and then what is your strategy of your particular fund or DAF as it may be respectively. So why don't we go Steve, Charles, and then Erik. We'll start with Steve.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being able to speak to this. I came at this, I'm fairly new at this and came at it sort of over time. I just had an evolving sense over an undefined period of time in the last few years about the opportunity that impact investing provided. It was probably redoubled by the fact that my son is a graduate student at NYU studying this very thing, impact investing. And that really triggered this sense that I needed to get into and understand this better. And I simply became intrigued by, frankly, the power of using our fullest economy for social good. The way I thought of it, previously there were essentially two models. There was for-profit company and there is charitable giving, philanthropy. And there's obviously an important place for both. But what social impact investing is doing from my perspective is combining the best tools of both into a hybrid situation where you don't have to make a choice one way or the other how you're deploying your assets, but rather you're deploying them for common good at the same time that you are trying to achieve success and profit in business. So I simply became intrigued by this and the untapped potential of this idea. Started investigating it, and the more I learned, the more I became excited about the prospect for essentially using business to scale up the ability to deploy capital into needy communities in a way that perhaps philanthropy itself, traditional philanthropy, is not reaching. And I wanted to start in my own backyard. I live in the East Bay. I've lived in the East Bay for 36, 37 years. I've been very interested in trying to do what I can do on a personal level to bolster the local economy and simultaneously affect some social change. And so got involved in making an investment in a local community in Oakland, excuse me, a local business in Oakland that is has a mission-based function, and off to the races. So here we are.
And thank you for that, Steve. We really have gratitude for you doing that. All right, Charles, give us the same background and a little bit about you and your fund.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm Charles Hudson. I'm the managing partner and founder of Precursor Ventures. We started about 6 years ago with a pretty simple premise. I felt like the early stage technology investing area, which is my specialty, I invest in early stage startups. It felt to me like the market was heading in a direction where the people who had the easiest time raising money were repeat founders people who happened to have lots of friends who were venture capitalists and had access to capital, but that there was this huge gap of people who were outside of the capital ecosystem, who just had a hard time raising money for their ventures because they didn't go to Stanford or Berkeley, or they hadn't been part of a startup before, they didn't know VCs. And I felt like that audience needed a capital partner that would help them in the earliest days. And so when I started the fund, I went into this thinking that, hey, we'll end up with a cross-section of people that we can help get their businesses from that sort of 0 to 1 phase. And as you can imagine, we end up with a portfolio of companies that we've backed, and we've done over 250 investments that skews heavily female and BIPOC. And if you think about the venture capital business as a whole, it's done a pretty poor job of funneling capital to deserving entrepreneurs of color and women, and particularly those who sit at the intersection of race and gender. And so as a fund, we're very focused on bringing people who are outside of the capital ecosystem into the capital ecosystem, providing them with capital, support, advice to help them get from that sort of formative stage to a stage where they're ready for more resources. And I'm a proud Bay Area resident of 25 years now. I'm not originally from here, but I consider it home now. And about 2/3 of our portfolio companies are based here in the Bay Area. So we're very focused on investing in local entrepreneurs here who are building great companies. And I'm really honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Charles. I love that you're sort of redefining access to venture capital, and it's an important step. So thank you for what you do. And Erik, please share with us a little about your fund and how you view your impact investing.
Sure, thanks. Again, appreciate the invitation to be here today, and coming at it from the philanthropic side. SK2 Fund is a family-run foundation. I've been working professionally in philanthropy for over 20 years now. And SK2 Fund has gone through various iterations and different names in the past, but traditionally we've been a grant maker, and we've generally worked in assisting underserved entrepreneurs in the developing world. And it's only in the last year or two that we've turned that same lens domestically here. I have deep roots in California, although I live in Idaho now, and the ecosystem in the East Bay for social entrepreneurship and progressive impact investing ideas is robust. And so I keep finding myself back in Oakland and vicinity, looking at interesting ventures and players in this space. I was an impact investment skeptic at first. I think as a grant maker, I sort of doubted the motives of impact investors early on, but sort of had an awakening when I started examining how most foundations manage their resources, which is to wall off the investment side of things from the grant making side of things, giving away less than 5% of their asset value to initiatives that are trying to solve the social and environmental problems that are the mission of the foundation, but then separating 95% of the money from that effort seemed a bit insane to me, that 95% of your resources could be allocated in a way that works against the 5% you're devoting to grants. And so I thought that disconnect really spoke to me, and saw how much more we could do if we deployed our investment resources, the endowment resources, towards our mission, not have it be separate from that. So that was a major awakening and led us to go down that route. And just in the last couple of years, we've decided that we are going to devote 100% of our endowment resources to impact investment. Most of that, the vast majority of that, in private sector initiatives, and also going to spend down over a generation. So that enables us, hopefully, to be much more aggressive to invest in service of our impact goals.
I love that. Thank you, Erik. What a great story, and thank you to your entire family. Okay, so I think we'll stay in the same order, just for fun. And what I did next is we provided the investors with 3 questions, and it's their choice which question to answer. And the 3 questions are to either provide a case study of an impact investment you've made, or any investment you've made that has had impact that you would like to talk about what went right or what went wrong, or to provide any serious advice to the founders, especially diverse founders and founders focused on impact that are in our audience today. And then finally, it's a big, broad question. I realize that we can't answer today, but basically, how do you think we can most aggressively address the wealth cap and shift capital so it is more equitably distributed? So Steve.
Yeah, I'll try and take the third one, but really in a simplified way, not a particularly sophisticated business-like way. I just think things like what is happening right here, this exercise we're in right now, and getting the word out is what's important. Where I come from, not in the finance industry, but I'm intersecting with lawyers and business people all the time, and I've been talking to them a lot over the last year, particularly about impact investing. And my own takeaway is that although a lot of people have heard of it, and a lot of people sort of know what it is and could define it perhaps broadly in a sentence, they don't really know what it's about, don't really understand how to get into it. And so there is this enormous untapped potential out there for people who are interested but don't quite know where to start. And I would have put myself in that same category. I'm still learning as we go. And so it's just a matter of doing things like this to get the word out and educate people. Impact investing is still a very new portion of the economy. I've heard, I can't verify, but I've heard it's the fastest growing part of the finance world. And it's now, as I mentioned with my son, being taught at graduate school level. And I think it's just a matter of continuing to get the word out about what it is and what it means and how it can function in this hybrid model that didn't previously really exist. So that's the most I can offer.
Great, thank you, Steve. I love that. Okay, Charles, you're next.
I thought I would just give a case study on a company. Unfortunately, it's not Bay Area based, but I hope they'll be here someday. I'm an investor in a company called Gooder that's based out of Atlanta, that's run by a really talented Black female founder named Jasmine Crow. And it's a really neat business model. She's focused on, she noticed that there was a problem, which was that sports facilities, airports, kind of places where large people congregate, were throwing away plenty of perfectly usable food at the end of the day. And this isn't sort of, raw materials. It's not bags of potatoes. This was sandwiches that had been made, pastries, things like that. And what she realized was they were throwing away this food because the process of getting it to people in need was too cumbersome. And what she realized is that the tax code actually had a feature where these organizations could get a tax credit for donating this food. And what she realized is if she could build a network of nonprofit food banks and soup kitchens and other places that distributed food, she could be this bridge that would enable these large volume places to distribute this food to people who are in need. And there was a business case for the businesses to donate this as opposed to throw it out. And that there was an opportunity for her to actually run a business that was self-sustaining, and it turns out to be quite large, around being the conduit between moving this food that's still safe to consume to people in need. And it's a business that I'm really proud to be associated with, because it's both a very good financial business in terms of the underlying economics of how it works for Jasmine as the person in the middle doing the coordination. And it obviously has a big social impact. And the really cool thing is that as her profile has grown, it's enabled her to do new things. Like one of the big things she did recently is she helped a school build a food. I mean, I would love to live in a world where elementary school students didn't need a food pantry at school to meet their basic needs. But she partnered with some folks in the local Atlanta community and during COVID sort of set up this sort of network of local food pantries, and she just launched her first one inside of a school. And so it's been really cool to watch Jasmine take all of the learnings that she's gotten from dealing with the commercial sector and use it to also work with nonprofits and do what I think is a really important mission, which is making sure that people get fed. And I think it's a business that wouldn't work as well without that combination of purpose and profit.
I love that. And Charles, while you were speaking, many people in the chat are sharing the love for Jasmine and Gooder. Evidently, she's well known. And so thank you for that investment and for that case study. A great example of sort of that bridge between nonprofit and for-profit. Okay, Erik, which question did you choose?
I also chose the case study, but I want to do a bit of a politician dodge and turn it on its head and give you a very recent, fresh, in fact, case study of a process that did not work out like we intended, because I think that's also equally instructive, especially more for us on the investment side. We were in due diligence with a triple bottom line impact business who I'm gonna remain nameless, but based in the East Bay, and we were looking at considering an equity investment in this business. And after a number of calls and looking at documents, it was communicated to us by the entrepreneur that our due diligence process was too burdensome, too intrusive, too burdensome, and that they didn't want to continue the process with us, which was super disturbing to me as someone who would like to position ourselves as a non-extractive investor, one that is comfortable offering concessionary terms. But a lot of folks on our team are rooted more in traditional financial advisory services, and so have processes in place to try to get the financial info they need to make informed decisions. But we came to a place where we sort of figured out that our due diligence process, we were applying a very similar lens on a grassroots social impact entrepreneur as we were on, say, a much larger private equity fund that has much more capacity and resources to, have all the financial statements and documentation in order. And instead, we're asking a social impact entrepreneur who's kind of winging it on a shoestring and trying to find time to update financials, in between actually running the business. It was an eye opener for us, and it's forced us to go back to the drawing board and try to restructure our due diligence so that it's not an undue burden on the entrepreneur. I mean, after all, what we're after is an impact investor to help that impact business succeed, not hamstring it by putting requirements on them that maybe are more applicable to much larger entities. So, and then the other part of that learning lesson was that we won't do again was we weren't comfortable with that entrepreneur's valuation of their business and the equity valuation they were putting on it and the equity investment they were looking for. So we sort of tried to steer them towards more of a debt investment. And, at first they said, okay, yes, we'll consider that. But then they came back and said, no, you're actually, disrespecting the potential of our business by not, accepting that the kind of investment that we're actually looking for. And that's another part of the process that we are re-examining is try to maybe be more upfront with the investment candidate up front if we're uncomfortable with the thing we're looking for maybe it's better to be candid up front and sort of cut off the process early rather than drag it out and try to steer the entrepreneur into a place that works for us but isn't as good for them. So a lot of learning lessons there on what not to do. We're not veterans at this game. We're new at it as well, and learning as we go. But I think it was an instructive lesson on trying to match due diligence to the entrepreneur size and capacity, and also just do a little more listening in the due diligence process. And
Erik, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm pretty sure you can't see it because you've been talking, but you are getting a lot of support in the chat from other investors and other founders saying thank you for just being very transparent. And I think what you have uncovered is the fact that in building an inclusive economy, we have to actually change a system because there are systemic issues in the way finance has been carried out for many, many years. And so what you just said is very visionary in my mind, that you recognize those things and that there may be changes in the way that you approach it in the future. So thank you for that. I know that we have to be very aware of the time. We want to get to the founders, but I think we have a few questions. Elizabeth, are you there with a question or two?
Yes, I am. We have two questions. So answer them briefly, please. The first one is, why doesn't the VC world include a percentage set aside for investments that could be given to nonprofits? For example, if a VC invests $2 million in a startup, couldn't 5% of that be set aside to invest in nonprofit services?
I'm going to guess that is for Charles, who runs a VC fund.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it just comes down to basically the agreement that we have with all the people who provide us capital to invest. It's pretty restrictive on the kinds of businesses that we can invest in. It generally restricts, I'm generally restricted to investing in B and C corporations that are providing a technology product or service. So it makes it kind of difficult. What you are seeing, though, I think on the positive side is there are more venture funds who are thinking about, well, if we can't use our principal capital to support nonprofits, are there ways we can use the proceeds that we get back, our returns, to support organizations? And I think there are people doing cool things like my friends at Base 10. They've made a pledge to take a significant chunk of the returns that they generate and use those to support programs at HBCUs. So I think venture capitalists as a group, the progressive ones are starting to think, if I can't put the primary capital to work to support organizations that I care about, are there ways I can use the money that comes back in terms of returns to make sure that we have an impact?
Wonderful. Yep, I love that. Okay, Elizabeth, what's that next question?
We're getting a few more, so we'll just keep going until we run out of time. From Courtney, can you talk about how nonprofits can be profit worthy for their work, or is it more beneficial for nonprofits to develop into B Corps to tap into investment funding for social impact?
Is that an Erik question, given that you have a little bit of both?
Yeah, sure. I mean, traditionally, as a foundation, you think of grants going to nonprofits and not for-profit investment, but that's changing, and there's definitely flexibility to do that now. Although not all foundations are aware of that or doing that, but through program-related investments, you can pretty much structure investments with nonprofits. That's not a problem if it makes sense for the nonprofit. Again, I don't think nonprofits should be focused on figuring out a way to put a round hole or round peg in a square hole, or and to get investment money. I think they should only do it if it makes sense for the nonprofit in being able to raise more resources to do the good work they do. But if it does, then it's certainly something that we would take a look at.
Great, thank you. Oh, great, Elizabeth, you have more?
I do. I have one from Rosalind. Rosalind said that Charles's experience is very deep. What are your thoughts regarding the definition of success, both financially and socially? And I feel like that actually could apply to everyone who's on this panel. So
Yeah, why don't we let Steve take a shot at that? Because just to be clear, Steve is taking money from his DAF, which is technically philanthropic capital, and investing into a for-profit business, but primarily looking at the purpose of the business. So maybe speak to that purpose versus profit.
Yeah, there's really not a profit motive at all here. It's a matter of trying to scale up. How can I turn $1 into multiple dollars to do good? And if I give money charitably, which is important, and I've done it, and I will continue to do it, that's a dollar given for a dollar gained by a nonprofit. What I have been looking for is the opportunity to perhaps turn $1 into multiple dollars if I deploy capital into a business and there's a return. And it could be that I'm deploying equity and getting a return. It could be that I am deploying debt, providing some underlying loan to a business, and will get repaid on very concessionary, very soft terms, not commercial terms. But then that capital comes back to my DAF, not to me. And now I can redeploy it. I can use it a second time and perhaps a third time. And so the idea that is sort of behind this for me is how can I maximize the use of every dollar that I have for social purpose?
I think that answered the question very well. Thank you. Elizabeth, it looks like we have several more. How are we doing on time?
we're good. We can take a couple more questions. So let's go ahead and look at Alfredo's question. How do you balance the purpose versus profit in your evaluation of potential investments? The social impact business needs to generate revenue in return, but deep social impact requires resources that take away from that profit bottom line. How do you encourage enterprises to balance the bottom lines?
Who wants to take that?
I'm happy to offer some thoughts here. We do meet businesses where I think the social mission is so important and the profit path is unclear. I think that's why there are some businesses that are some concepts that are better served as nonprofits. So I do think like there are certain problems where the market just doesn't do a great job of providing support, and that's okay. So one of the things I always ask founders who want to do businesses that have a strong social mission, like what Jasmine did at Gooder. We're also an investor in a company called Zero Grocery that's trying to basically remove plastic from basically the grocery business. It's always like, hey, is there a good underlying economic rationale here that's going to allow you to thrive as a business? And to me, it's not so much about, is it a profit maximizing business? Are you squeezing every available dollar out? But is the engine on the business side strong enough to propel the company and allow it to remain independent and achieve its mission? If the answer to that is no, it doesn't mean it's not a worthy task to tackle. It just means that trying to wrap it around a for-profit business model might not be the right call for that entrepreneur, for that idea.
Thank you, Charles. And I know I'm the moderator, but I'm going to add one point as someone who's been involved with this. I'm also seeing terms, relooking at terms. So if you have a sustainable food business and it still might be worthy of a venture capital investment, maybe the term expectation is a little bit longer than if you were a tech strategy that could have an exit very quickly. So I do think we're actually, when we talk about changing the entire system, it's starting to change models that have been in place for a long time and creating innovative, disruptive models of finance that still bring a beneficial, satisfactory end to both investor and founder, but it's just a little bit different model. I think we are now out of time. Is that the message I'm getting, Sabrina and Elizabeth?
I think we have time for one last question if everyone's up for it.
Okay.
So the last question is from Burke. How do you help entrepreneurs and VC investors bridge the language/comfort gap? Entrepreneurs may not feel comfortable talking with investors who can come across as arrogant or speaking a different language.
Erik, it looks like, after your last experience, maybe that's a good question for you of just bridging that language gap.
Yeah, I mean, financial advisor speak can be intimidating for some entrepreneurs who maybe are just starting down the road of seeking external investment. So it's really incumbent upon the investor to simplify the language and also be clear about the process, about the kinds of things that might be needed, and inquiring how that sits with the entrepreneur, like what they can and cannot provide, what is and is not reasonable, and to address that with them candidly and upfront, I think will go a long way towards building trust and keeping a more honest two-way flow of communication right from the get-go, rather than running it down the checklist of what's the investor needs to even consider it. Yeah, that's a good place to start. More candid communication right up front at the start of the process.
I think that's true of anything. Thank you for that, Erik. And I would be remiss if I didn't answer one other question that came up in the chat, and that is how to start a DAF, given that we're talking about being able to make impact investments from DAFs. And we have people from our staff on the call. I'm going to just shout out Jerry Boomgarten and Alex Aquino Fike and who's on Katiti. We have several staff members from East Bay that if you reach out to us, all of our emails are on the website. Happy to take you through that process. It's pretty painless. And I think, as Steve can tell you, it's exciting to be a part of that impact investing movement, unlocking those DAF dollars. So please do reach out to us. And with that, we are out of time. I want to thank our panelists. They are extremely busy. And I just appreciate not only the work you're doing, but your time with us today, and just being very available and accessible, and really helping change the entire system of investing, and so that we can actually build that inclusive economy. Thank you, Charles, Erik, and Steve, so much. And with that, we're going to continue moving on. I'm excited to get to sort of the heart and soul of our showcase, the entrepreneurs and the founders. But we do still have a couple of things to do. And as James mentioned at the top, we have an incredible team and very, very involved. We've had Elizabeth Berger, who is our program manager of impact investments, and Sabrina Wu, who works in the Inclusive Economy Showcase and heads up the Real People's Fund. And they have just been a tremendous help as part of our team. And so at this point, I'm going to hand the entire program over to them. Sabrina and Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you, Val. Great. So I'm Sabrina, and I work with Val and Elizabeth at East Bay Community Foundation on the programs team, leading our work to build an inclusive East Bay economy. And I'm so excited to be here with all of you today to celebrate our expanding impact investing efforts, and also our brilliant entrepreneur community in the East Bay, with people of color and women leading the way in terms of business innovation that centers racial and gender equity. Next slide. So today's showcase is meant to highlight some of these entrepreneurs as leaders in our community who are building the economy we want and need, and who are building community economic power. Although our showcase features entrepreneur presentations, we consider it different from your typical pitch event in that our primary goal really here is to build community between entrepreneurs, funders, investors, and the broader community. Next slide. So our call to action to all of you is to support our entrepreneurs in whatever way you can, whether that be direct financial support, making introductions that might be helpful, becoming a customer of their amazing business, or joining their mission. And you'll see in some of the presentations today that many of our entrepreneurs will have concrete asks that you may be able to contribute to. And as you also heard, those of you who are DAF holders at EBCF are now able to make direct investments into these companies, whether that be grants, loans, or other types of investments. And we hope that the rest of you in the audience will also consider impact investments as a way to support a just and equitable economy in our region. So before we launch into the presentations, I want to thank everyone who applied. We had a total of 50 impressive applicants, which made our decision-making pretty difficult. I also want to thank our selection committee, who had the challenging task of narrowing down the presenters to the 10 who you'll hear from today. You'll have a chance to meet our selection committee members and our presenting entrepreneurs in breakout groups that will occur throughout our program today. I also want to thank One World, who worked very closely with East Bay Community Foundation to produce this event. And I'd like to invite Scott and Angie from One World to introduce themselves and to share a little bit about their organization.
Well, really nice to be here involved with you all. We have been working behind the scenes to support our friends at the East Bay Community Foundation. We basically provide training and capital to help organizations scale their work in a profitable way. So Angie Merton is here. Scott, a couple of words for you.
Hello, everyone. Really excited to be part of the second event here. And it's an honor to work behind the scenes supporting East Bay Community Foundation. We're huge fans of the work and the community that's been built here. And we're just grateful to be part of it. And yeah, we hope that you enjoy the program today and learn a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Scott and Angie. And finally, I want to thank our partners, How Women Lead. Thank you for all your support and for inviting your amazing community to our showcase today. Next slide. Our selection committee used a set of criteria to select and prioritize the presenting entrepreneurs. It was really important to us that the selection criteria aligned with East Bay Community Foundation's values of racial equity and social justice and our programmatic and grant-making priorities. So this is the criteria that was used in evaluating the applications. The first is that the companies we feature be based in and serve the East Bay, Alameda, and Contra Costa counties, since that's a geographic area that EBCF serves. We were open to both for-profit and nonprofit entities who are seeking impact investments or loans. And in keeping with how we prioritize nonprofit organizations for grants, it was important for us to feature BIPOC or women-led or founded companies that are based in and serving BIPOC communities. And finally, we are looking for companies that have already raised some investment dollars and are continuing to raise funds in the next year. Next slide. So these are our amazing presenters today. They all meet the criteria that we just walked through, and we're excited to introduce them to you all today. In terms of how the event will run, each presenter will have 5 minutes to present. We know that that is very brief, and the presentations are really meant to be a teaser. So as I mentioned earlier, there'll be breakout sessions with all the entrepreneurs after the presentations. So we encourage you to connect more deeply in that more interactive setting or after the event to find ways that you're able to support them. We'll have a break midway through the presentations, but please feel free to take care of yourself and any needs you have throughout the event. So as I mentioned, after the first 5 presentations, we'll go into the breakout sessions, 1 per entrepreneur, and you'll have 20 minutes in these individual breakout sessions, which are called Entrepreneur Spotlights. And it'll just be a wonderful opportunity to connect one-on-one and learn how you can better support them. And so with that, we're going to move into the presentations. So I am happy to introduce our first presenter, Something Better Foods, which is a Black-owned food manufacturing company that has developed a suite of plant-based proteins sold under the brand name Better Chew. Something Better Foods has created the best tasting plant-based protein solution with a texture and taste that satisfies our body's desire for meat. So welcome, Something Better Foods.
Welcome, I'm happy to be here. Okay, so I'm sorry, I get started. So next slide. Well, my name is Chef Chew, and as I always say, going to give you something to chew on. I'm actually the founder of Something Better Foods, and we are a public benefit corporation, and we self-manufacture plant-based proteins. Next slide. Our mission is to democratize the access of plant-based proteins. I was actually raised a hardcore Southern country boy. I ate a lot of meat, everything from fried chicken to ribs, to pork chops, to ham, you name it, we ate it. Food was life, food was culture. Here's what I had my happiest memories. On the flip side, food caused a detrimental impact on my family's health. Many of my family members died prematurely from lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. And what you'll find in Black and brown communities, we have the highest rates of chronic disease and we have the least amount of access. Next slide. I became a vegan in 2001. And everything on the market tasted like dog-made pet food. I mean, it was horrible. And so I started a 15-year journey to understand the secrets of why I love meat so much. And I created something better. I discovered the secrets of why we love meat, and there's 3 amazing factors. This includes texture, the taste, and the appearance. And we call our product Better Chew. We said it looks like chicken, it tastes like chicken, but guess what? It ain't chicken. It's crispy on the outside and it's white in the middle. It's delicious. Next slide. What we've done, we actually have created a texturization platform that's 100% vertically integrated. We use non-GMO organic soybeans and other ingredients that you can pronounce. We create a horizontal substrate of protein that mimics meat. We have patiently tested our process over 15 years. We've worked with a number of manufacturers to help us to automate our process. We have 45 years of combined IP, and we have thousands of satisfied customers. Next slide. We actually launched in market in 2020, and we went into Whole Foods Market. We sold above category average. Our top 3 SKUs were in the top 1/3 of 77 plant-based proteins. Our fried chicken sold 3 times category average, 15 units per week per store in the top 20 stores. And we've sold over $1 million in revenue since our inception. We have an aggressive expansion plan in place. We're launching in Southern California and Whole Foods right now. We're in review with Sprouts Market and also Target. We launch our e-commerce platform starting on next Monday, October 4th at eatbetterchew.com. We just got our first college university food service contract, and we sell to a number of vegan restaurants in the Bay Area, one being the Vegan Mob, which is doing 600 pounds per week. The next slide. We actually been featured on many news articles, everything from Bloomberg to the T-Pain School of Business on the Fuse Network, KQED, TED Talks, Market Watch, and we have an aggressive social media campaign that we're running, hoping to become a household name in 2022. Next slide. We have an amazing team of people of color, women, myself. I'm the founder, Chef Chew again. I've been in the food industry for over 15 years, also been in the restaurant industry for 10 years. My CFO, James Sims, has an MBA in economics and finance. And also he literally moved his family all the way from DC to the East Bay to join this movement. I think he's probably crazy, but he's coming to join the fight. Dior Richards, who's actually our COO, she's a scientist by trade and has a lot of experience in building systems and processes and day-to-day operations. We also have a team of advisors who has supported our business. We're a part of a group called One Step Closer, which is a CEO collective with mentors such as Cooley Cooley, and also groups like Nomi T, who's actually a big part of our business, helping us to grow. Next slide. Our current challenge is simple. Our demand is greater than our capacity. We're literally looking to secure a manufacturing facility to increase our capacity to $20 million. The funding will help us to go from a hand kind of almost semi-automated process to a fully automated manufacturing facility. And our funding will help us to improve our supply chain and purchasing. What's most exciting is that we're looking to build a business that has healthy gross margins with literally increasing our margins by 32% in the next 12 months, which is so exciting. Next slide. Here you can see our growth strategy over the next 5 years. We're literally looking to about 2023 to have our new factory in place. And here we're going to see our aggressive growth at 7.4 million. And with that, we have 3 business channels, our food service, our e-commerce, and our grocery channels. And we're looking to just simply grow nationally as we go into 2025. And we have a very clear exit strategy for our investors. Next slide. Right now, we're looking at an integrated capital strategy. We're looking to raise $7.25 million in our Series A round. 3.75 million will be for debt financing for leasehold improvements and also equipment. 3.25 million will be for equity financing for working capital and marketing. And then we're looking for a $250,000 line of credit for strategic purchasing. We literally are a East Bay. We've been raised by the village. We received investment from ICA at 500,000, the Runway Project, PCV, Working Solutions, RSF. We literally today just closed a loan with Community Vision, who's actually helping us to get some small pieces of equipment. So we really have been embraced by the East Bay. And we believe we're at a point now where we need, even further investments to get over that kind of that startup phase, that seed capital phase, now into our Series A phase to get us to our next point in our business. So please, if you're excited about Something Better Foods, partner with us as we're launching literally manufacturing right here in the East Bay. We actually are doing local manufacturing again in the East Bay economy, and we're looking to create over 80 jobs over the next 5 years in this economy. So again, my name is Chef Chu, and as I always say, gonna give you something to chew on.
Thank you, Chef Chu. Can everyone give Chef Chu a virtual round of applause or use your applause reaction in Zoom? All right. I would love to introduce our next presenter now. Progeny Coffee was founded by Maria Palacio, who was born and raised on a coffee farm in the heart of Quindío, the famous coffee region of Colombia. Growing up, she built a passion for coffee and a deep relationship with growers. Today, Progeny Coffee goes beyond fair or direct trade. They have created a sustainable and innovative coffee chain, supporting farmers to grow higher quality coffees in order to double their income and bring their best experience to customers. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much for the invitation and to be here. And I mean, what a great presentation of Chef Chu. But let's start with Progeny Coffee. So, did you know that when you're consuming low price cup of coffee, you're participating into a poverty loop? My name is Maria Palacio, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Progeny Coffee. I am actually a fifth-generation Colombian coffee farmer. And like many of us, we experience firsthand all the challenges that a coffee farmer goes through, all the way to producing 15% below margin. So as I was growing up at that time, it was clear that there was no opportunities for me in the agriculture business in Colombia. So I made it to the US looking for better opportunities and a brighter future, where I actually found my co-founder, John Travelsi, in New York. And as we were consuming that $5 plus cup of coffee, we started seeing that discrepancy between the reality of the coffee farmers and the price we were paying. Next, please. And so we started analyzing that cup of coffee, and it took the barista 5 minutes to brew that cup of coffee. The roaster, it took him 12 minutes. And the farmer, it took them 3 years and 9 months of harvest. So how come our farmers are the ones that are falling into a deeper poverty loop and are not the face of their own coffee? Next, please. And so we ask our question, how can we create a sustainable coffee chain based on circular economy that actually brings high value to the farmers as well as our consumers? Next, please. And so we start analyzing the supply chain, and something that takes about 10 different steps. We were able to remove all unnecessary middlemen, break it down into 3 steps, and be able to double the income of the farmers, capturing all that excess revenue. But we didn't stop there just in the supply chain. We went even farther, focusing on the farmer. And we were able to create what's called Beyond Trade, a platform where we deliver free education, technical support, and financial intelligence to the farmers. Next slide, please. And so in 2016, we founded Progeny Coffee in Silicon Valley with the mission to lift farmers out of poverty. Next, please. And so Progeny Coffee is a platform where we actually connect the farmer and the consumer. So here's the story of William. He's from the mountains of Colombia. Those who are from Colombia, he's from Pitalito, Huila, and he's a father of 2 kids. And his dream is to be able to give the education that he never had to his kids. And so we're able to partner him with Google, who they actually bought the full crop of William as they're lifting him out of poverty. And we even was able to bring William from the mountains of Colombia to Silicon Valley. First time ever him flying on a plane or getting outside of his mountain to Silicon Valley, where he was able to share firsthand with the Googlers about his coffee. And we're able to also bring Google to Colombia for them to actually see it firsthand. And then we get this beautiful picture of his son with the, with the shirt that he bought of Google. And that's what we're trying to do, to empower the next generation of coffee farmers. And of course, very key for us that his picture will be always at the forefront of the packaging. Next, please. And so we founded Progeny Coffee with 3 products. We launched with our whole bean coffee that always have and showcase the farmers, single origin microlots, full traceability and full transparency. And of course, our packaging are all compostable. Next. We also have our single serve, which is really exciting because it competes with Keurig, Nespresso. We don't need, because it doesn't produce any waste. And it doesn't need any machinery. And as well, it's fully compostable, the packaging. Next, please. And we also have our beverage, which we're really excited about because it is a byproduct of coffee. It is made out of the fruit of the coffee, which usually is waste. And the fruit of the coffee has 5 times more antioxidants than green tea. So we create a beverage that has 5 times more antioxidants than green tea, 5 calories, and 1 gram of sugar. And it creates an external revenue stream for the farmers, and it goes through that 0 waste because we're not wasting the fruit of the coffee. And in 2020, we won the Stacy Rice Project Award by PepsiCo, where we were able to work for 6 months with their team to be able to get it ready to market. Next, please. And so we distribute to 3 channels. We have our B2B, where it's through procurement. We distribute to all major tech companies in Silicon Valley through our same model, partnering the farmer with the company through that full sustainable and transparent platform. We're also in retails currently. We are at HEB with our beverage. We're soon launching at Target, Walmart.com, and we're at Kroger.com. And we also launch our direct-to-consumer as subscription model, again, through the Adopt the Farmer model, where you don't choose a blend, you actually choose and adopt the farmer, and you partner with that farmer to empower them. So you connect that deep emotional connection with them. Next, please. So our story got louder and it has been out there and it has been recognized, our model and our sustainable coffee chain. So we're really excited that people are getting to hear about that because coffee is one of the most consumed beverage out there in the world. It's growing, and how come our farmers are still falling into a deep poverty loop? Next, please. So we see that a very interesting intersection where we go for high quality, but mission-driven and yet scalability. Next, please. And so we have an incredible team of heavy mission-driven people and with the right experience to keep pushing Progeny forward. So here, Maria, that's me, the co-founder and CEO. My co-founder, John Travelsi, who has 10 plus years of experience in Silicon Valley. Daniel Palacio, who runs all of our operations and innovations in Colombia, and Jesse, who is here with us in the US. Next, please. So how can you support our mission? We're right now currently, finalizing our seed round that will help us impact 1,540 farmers. So that's a large impact, knowing that coffee's everybody's consuming coffee. And another ask is that we're looking to partner with the right people in distribution or retailers and so on. Next, please. So we want to invite you to join the change. And if you have any questions, here's my email. My name is Maria Palacio, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Maria, for that very inspiring presentation, and invite audience members to show Maria some love in the chat or with your Zoom emoji. Great. So our next presenter is Last Minute Gear. They are the only outdoor gear shop where you can buy, rent, or borrow gear. Their mission is to reduce waste and increase access to the outdoors. Additionally, they are building a model business that leverages automation to uplift and provide opportunities for rather than displace frontline service workers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's go to the next slide. So my name is James. My business is Last Minute Gear. And I just have a question. So imagine you're going camping this weekend and you need a tent. How would you get it? For most people, the primary default answer would be, I have to buy it. And when you buy it, you're faced with a spectrum of options. Next slide. Are you going to go with the one that's expensive, but better for you long-term, or the one that's more accessible today? When buying is your only option, you have to make a choice, and this creates two very contradictory problems. Next slide. On the one hand, the cost of gear is absolutely a barrier to access the outdoors. Yet, cheap gear creates piles of trash that park rangers have to deal with. But this doesn't have to be the way. Next slide. When I was in high school, I was a member of an inner city youth organization, and we had the most amazing outdoor experiences. Next slide. Just look at this smile, I'm going canoeing. We did all of this because the organization lent us all of their gear. And that was kind of my light bulb moment. Next slide. As Sabrina mentioned, Last Minute Gear is the only outdoor gear shop where you can buy, rent, or borrow. I realized that if buying were not the only alternative, and we can make something else also financially viable, then we can address both problems. We can reduce waste while increasing access to the outdoors. So how are we doing on that financial viability front? Next slide. We've shown that compared to traditional retail, renting can have over 6 times margin impact. Next slide. And in the 4 years prior to COVID, we saw 30% year-on-year growth. Next slide. So during COVID, we have suffered quite a bit. So we've taken the time to shore up our technological backend foundation because not buying is growing an exponential trend. Just think about the cultural impact Marie Kondo has had. Next slide. The outdoor gear industry is $12 billion a year. If just 1% of that converted to something like renting, that would be a great business. Next slide. But the pitch that we've developed is actually converting 60% of people from walking in looking to buy to walking out renting or borrowing instead. And that's the opportunity that I want to bring to you today. Next slide. We are accelerating the shift to a not buy-based economy because a not buy-based economy doesn't have these trade-offs and is inherently both financially viable and impactful. Next slide. So for example, our rental program has already offset over 1,000 cross-country flights worth of carbon, while our borrow program has saved over $30,000 for campers, many of whom were able to go on their first-time trips because of it. Next slide. When I think about innovation, I think about extracting less and giving back more. And these are some of the example programs that we do. Now, they might seem somewhat cannibalizing, like our borrow program that offers free gear, or how much we invest in our staff. But this is kind of my answer to that question that Alfredo asked in the Q&A for the panel. We resolve the profit and the social side by thinking long-term. Last Minute Gear is all about longevity. So now we found, for example, that 50% of our borrow program users will also cross over into renting. Next slide. These programs are also a culmination of my life's work. So after high school, I went to Berkeley, I worked on cow composting, and I worked on a medicine take-back program, both of which are still active today. After that, I worked on corporate consulting. And now at Last Minute Gear, I have a chance to focus deeply on the root and ask, why do we have hyperconsumption and inequality? And how do we address them together? Next slide. This is also just a personal passion of mine, and I can't not do this. Outside of work, I volunteer with organizations doing green business and increasing access to the outdoors for the BIPOC and queer communities that I belong to. Next slide. These experiences that I had really changed the trajectory of my entire life. And I think about how different I would be otherwise, which is why I really am asking for your help. Next slide. To help get more folks outside so they can have the same transformative adventures that I did. So here are some ways you can do that. You can try out our service. Our store is based in San Francisco, but we currently can deliver to the East Bay and beyond. You can tell a friend about us. Everyone knows someone going camping, skiing, or climbing. It's the Bay Area. You can sign up for our mailing list. We only do 3 to 4 mailers a year, lastminutegear.com. But today, I also want to invite people to invest in us or share us with your investor network. Next slide. We're raising a small fund, and one of the goals would be to bring Last Minute Gear to the East Bay because the delivery costs are kind of expensive, not gonna lie. Oakland is a huge city and it's nestled in the Bay Area in Northern California, where we know the opportunities for outdoor adventures are boundless. And yet it's the only city without a specialty gear shop of its own. So I'm looking for help to change that so we can change the lives of people through access to nature. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Next slide. You can join my breakout or james@lastminutegear.com to get in touch directly.
James, thank you so much for your presentation. Just a reminder that if you have any questions for entrepreneurs, please hold them until the breakout sessions that are coming up next. So I'm so excited to introduce our next presenter, April Fennell, with Pickup. Pickup is a socially responsible delivery service that supports the local, small, and emerging businesses that are the backbone of thriving communities. Pickup has an unwavering commitment to provide a safe, inclusive, and educational work environment to those who face barriers to economic opportunity. Take it away.
Hey everybody, again, my name is April Fennell. I'm the founder and CEO at Pickup. Pickup is an employment training delivery partner for food, beverage, and retail businesses. Next slide. Next slide. I grew up in the East Bay area, went to school in the East Bay, and it was the East Bay's diversity and my family that shaped my perspective, my experiences, and helped me design Pickup's mission to strengthen communities and empower people who face barriers to employment. Next slide. And my experience before going to jail, I would need all of the love and empathy from my family, because between the ages of 21 and 24, my passport wasn't stamped for traveling the country, it was for traveling across 5 different counties and being in and out of jail and courts. Next slide. My work experience prior to my life of incarceration between 21 and 24 was largely in the public sector. It was in retail, and it was in roles that were customer service focused. I then got my degree, and at that time started working on college campuses. And right about then, I started to see the need in the workforce because I wasn't able to show up in all of these different roles and jobs as my whole self, as a person that identifies with so many different identities, formerly incarcerated only being one of them. I use all of that today of what I learned about people to help me build Pickup. Next slide. Pickup's model, we are a for-profit. We do good work in the community like a nonprofit would, but we can't do that without our partnerships with nonprofits and our fiscal sponsor. Next slide. Currently, we employ 7 part-time employees. We have 3 interns, and 3 folks are in our employment training program. 1 just graduated, and here you see over the years our different interns that we've worked with. Next slide. We support wholesale delivery, local and grocery delivery, and to date have completed over 9,000 successful deliveries for our business partners. Next slide. Our service area, East Bay, North Bay, San Francisco, and expanding. Right now, our largest sales are coming from our wholesale delivery market, followed by grocery, and then local. Next slide. Our value proposition, without our business partners, we love them dearly, and we want them to scale. We want them to reach their goals, and we want them to have impact in the community. for them. We are quality, reliable, more than a delivery service. We are a delivery partner. Next slide. But there's more. We're also an experienced quality workforce development partner. We are trusted and have worked with some of the top tier nonprofits and businesses in the East Bay area. Next slide. Ajere was our day one hire. 4 years ago, I met him at Impact Hub. I met him with a horrible driving record and low self-esteem and no digital literacy experience at all. Today, I am proud to say Ajere has reached many goals. He has no points of on his driving record, and he's our lead instructor currently teaching youth at the Juvenile Justice Center at Alameda County. Next slide. Our programs include logistics training, marketing, dispatch, and currently our training accounts for 25% of our sales. Next slide. Our growth opportunities are huge. We want to go where our business partners go. We currently have opportunities in all of our service offerings in Sacramento, the South Bay, and Los Angeles. Next slide. 4 years in, our hockey stick, somewhat hockey-ish, but we are on par to double our sales in 2022 and are just now getting back to our pre-COVID numbers to surpass 150K in sales. Our impact, we are small, but our impact is huge. Next slide. I am looking to raise from the rest of this year to next year, 150,000. And we are going to be using those in different ways to build capacity. And there are all sorts of ways that you can get in, whether it's monetary or in other donations. And you'll hear more about that by coming to our breakout session. Next slide. Yes, it takes money to grow, but it also takes dirt. I'm inviting you all to take action, invest in how you patronize, invest in how you champion and share the message, and take action by investing and get dirty with me. Next slide. Pickup.com, here's our phone number, there's our social media handle, and that's how you can email me.
Thank you so much, April. Let's have a round of digital applause. That was really inspiring. Thank you so much. Our next presenter is Alicia Villanueva with Alicia's Tamales. Alicia's Tamales Los Mayas' mission is to own a successful, sustainable business committed to improving the world around us, providing an experience where customers can enjoy delicious, handcrafted, homemade tamales made from high-quality, local and organic ingredients, and most importantly, love. Alicia's Tamales' vision is to own a worldwide recognized brand to create opportunities for families and to positively impact the community and the planet. Welcome, Alicia. Alicia, you are muted.
Hello, and I wish everybody is having a great and happy morning. My name is Alicia, and I'm the owner and lead of Alicia Tamales Los Mayas. Like, it's a small business. And like you say, we are here in Hayward making handcraft tamales, tamales in fine Mexican cuisine. Our tamales are made from high quality, local and organic ingredients. And the most, like you say, the most importantly is love. And our vision is a sustainable business and worldwide recognized brand that create opportunities for families and make a really nice and positive impact in our community. And our goal is to grow revenue 5 times over the next 3 years, from 3 to 15 million annually. Next slide, please. The community impact. We employ 25 staff from the East Bay area. We produce 40,000 tamales every month. And we currently produce 6,500 healthy take home meals for kids for the schools. And growing consumer sales through the gourmet and online grocers allow us to provide low cost, healthy and really culturally relevant meals to a school district. And you can see there is a picture of one of my three team, and there is the label for breakfast chicken burrito that all the students really love it. And next slide, please. Yeah, our growing distribution is divided in the markets like Whole Foods, Piazzas, Burke Ball, and plus 40 more markets. And the online market is Williams Sonoma, Good Eggs, and Move Shop. And what can I say here? That everybody loves the tamales. And my growth is like in 2010, I was accepted by La Cocina. La Cocina is a non-profit organization located in San Francisco. And you know, when I was there, I just started to make like 1,500 tamales. Then I make a program of 5 years in La Cocina, pre-incubation and incubation. And then I am graduated from La Cocina in 2015. When I was graduated and finished my program, I have 14 employees, and we were making a production of 24,000 tamales per month. And then we moved to this beautiful location that I have now, is 6,000 square feet in Hayward, like a small business funding provided that I was helping by Meta Opportunity Funds, Mission Asset Funds, and Copernicus Funds. And the main one is La Cocina. Today, I scale the business, 25 employees, from my main resources that incomes that was caterings and festivals, and I get a new contract in the Chase Center and the Moscone Convention Center in San Francisco. And thanks God we survived through the COVID to now. We didn't lay off anybody of our employees, and we keep going. Next slide, please. Yeah, our growth opportunity for us is, you know, adapting the business is for the school meals expansion, and then product lines expansion, distribution beyond the Bay. And right now, my dream is, and my goal exactly is be globally recognized brand. And like here, you know, Revolution Fits and Suki's and Amy's is like my inspiration to bring my business like that way. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. Here is my lovely and professional advisors. Is Dr. Quinn, is a food safety advisor in the company. Linda Esposito is the operation and marketing advisor, and Bert Fuse is our financial advisor here in our business. Next slide, please. Yeah, there is my family. It's a family business, and we really want, you know, we are just ready to be in the next stage. As a family business, we are ready to go for the next stage with more expertise, more capital, and yeah, that's why I'm here with you. Next slide, please. Yeah, we need 500,000 funding, and I will invest in equipment, and I really need 4 staff and more like technical assistance for the business, and yeah, food expertise persons too, and the strategy of investors with, I have the other option of a strategy investor with packaging food expertise and buy our delicious tamales. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, this is my contact information. And the only thing that I can say that I appreciate so much this opportunity, and my slogan is like, I would like to share with all of you is the best tamales are stuck with love, and the best people are stuck with my tamales. And I have some, yeah, this is the tamales. So we are ready to grow up and keep going with your help. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia. Let's give her a virtual round of applause.
Thank you.
That was an amazing round of presentations and clearly not enough time per entrepreneur. So if you are sitting with some burning questions for one or more of our presenters, you'll now have the opportunity to go into a breakout room of your choosing. So this session is called Entrepreneur Spotlight and will serve as a dialogue and relationship building space between our presenting entrepreneurs and the rest of you in the audience. Thank you to the members of our selection committee who will join the rooms as moderators and advisors. So we wanted to make sure to center the needs of each entrepreneur. So each presenter has been invited to bring up to 3 strategic questions that they'd like to engage their audience in. And these can be around any topic of their choosing. And we hope that you'll use this time to contribute your expertise in support of our presenters today. And there'll also be time for you to ask your questions. We'll have 20 minutes total in our breakout groups, and then we'll take a short break and hear from 5 more presenters this afternoon, followed by another round of breakouts. So you should see a pop-up box on your screen with the different breakout options. And please click join next to the breakout room of your choice. There will be one breakout room that will stay in this main room, and that is Chef Chu from Something Better Foods. So if you would like to join that session, then you can just stay here. So please join your breakout room right now, and we'll gather back in the main room in about 20 minutes.
Thank you.
Hey, Sabrina, Elizabeth, I'm not seeing a pop-up.
Neither am I.
Neither am I.
If you go, depending on which version of Zoom you have, if you go to the breakout room icon at the bottom of your screen, click on it. Hopefully you should see the rooms listed.
Sabrina, it's RT. I don't remember which breakout I'm supposed to be in.
Who asked that? Allison?
RT.
Oops.
Oh, already.
Put up the screen again so people can see which group they are.
I can't seem to join my breakout group.
Same.
Breakout room.
I'm with the tamale lady, okay?
Yes, Artie, you're with Alicia Tamales.
Okay.
Hey, Sabrina, I can see the breakout rooms, but I can't join them for some reason, though.
You can basically, maybe everybody who has troubles joining, this is Angie here in the background, just put your name in the chat and which group, and I'll move you to that group.
Great.
That was James who needed to be in his group.
Okay, so I just.
Yeah, so Alicia, I just moved you to your group, so you should be in your group. Kindly accept that invitation. And James as well, and then I'll do the rest behind the scene. Thank you, everybody.
So are we good now to stop screen sharing, you think?
Maybe a minute more, but you can start with the discussion here.
I just can't see anyone.
Been sent to my group yet. I put it in the chat.
Yeah, well, patience, please.
Right.
Which group are you, RT?
And
Alicia.
Okay, I'll put you in there.
Someone said if you hover your mouse over the number beside the name of the group. Daniel, do you think it's okay to stop screen sharing so we can start the Chef Chu conversation? Yay, there we go. All right, well, Chef Chu, you made me hungry. You did a fantastic job. I see a lot of pitches and you get 100%. I mean, you were very, very good in your presentation and I want to taste the food. And someone commented that you're all making us hungry and we don't have the ability to eat the wonderful food that you're telling us about. But welcome to your breakout room. You have a lot of brain trust in this room. I'm looking at some amazing people here. So what do you come, what questions do you have, Chef Chu? How can we be helpful to you?
Well, again, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Angie, for this kind of helping me to get to this point, and it's great to meet everybody here. Yes, I definitely have some questions, some burning questions. One of the key questions that I have, obviously, you know, I'm in a very, I guess, explosive industry in the plant-based food industry. It's obviously one of the greatest food technology businesses right now, and it's in the food space. And one of the questions I have is, you know, we have a really big impact, you know, mission when it comes to democratization of plant-based proteins, you know, and sometimes, you know, when you look at a growth company like us, you know, typically the strategy is to go strictly on a VC model, where you just go, you know, round by round by round, and typically there's a lot of equity that's lost, and sometimes the mission is lost. And so obviously impact investment has been obviously something new that's hit. So my question is, what kind of return metrics do social impact investors look for compared to, you know, a typical VC or traditional VC model? So what kind of, return metrics would a social impact investor look for compared to a traditional VC?
I think that's a great question. And you have many people here that could answer that. I'm just wondering if I can call on Nora May. You don't have your video on, are you there? But for those of you that don't know, Nora May is a GP of Supply Chain Capital, which focuses on venture capital, private equity into food companies. And so I think she would have a great perspective, but I'm not sure. Are you there, Nora May? Looks like we may be on hold with her. There you are.
I am here, audio only, and I missed the first part of your introduction, Val. So if you could recap for me, I'm happy to chime in.
So Chef Chu, who is in the business, plant-based foods, rapidly growing, looking for capital, but he really has an impact mission as well, wants to know with investors into food businesses, is it the venture capital model expectation, or how do you balance that? And you might introduce yourself in terms of what you do at Supply Chain.
Yes, hi everyone. Norma Cadena, normally based in Los Angeles, in San Diego today at a big Latinos in Technology conference, and I, together with Shana Harris, capital investing at the intersection of food, culture, and technology. And you know, I'd say the impact first. At Supply Chain Capital, we are investing for both returns and impact. The capital landscape has changed so much with entering and providing capital options for idea. And so,
Norma, you're cutting out. We can't really hear you.
Foundations are owner advised.
Yeah, maybe we can come back, or maybe Norma can connect with Chef Chu directly. Sorry about that. I know she's at a big conference in LA. Would anyone else like to take that on? I see a couple other VC Lindsay's in the room. You want to take that, Lindsay?
Sure, I'd be happy to speak to it. Although, unlike Normay's fund, we have an impact component to our strategy for sure. We invest in, the majority of the investments we've made have been in teams that include a woman or person of color. I'd say that to answer your question, Chef Chu, and by the way, just echoing Val's comments, I liked your presentation. I thought your energy was great. So much of, I think, being an effective presenter as a founder is engage the audience, right? Make people lean in and want to learn more and, you know, create a rapport. And I think you did a great job of that. So it's helpful maybe to think a little bit about how venture, investment funds work. Because to answer your question, you just need to think a little bit about that, right? Like a fund like mine, and your traditional venture fund that maybe invests in technology companies, they're going to go out and market their fund to institutional investors, and there'll be return expectations that are associated with that strategy, right? So when I go out to investors and ask them to give me money, because, you know, we're investing other people's money, I have to set an expectation with them, you know, and for us, that's, hey, you know, we're going to give you, our target is a 25% net IRR over the life of the fund. To generate that kind of return for a fund like mine, I need to invest in companies where the opportunity exists for that business to be worth $1 billion or so in the fullness of time. And the expectation is if I own, you know, 8 to 10% of that, and I've got a few things that work in a portfolio of say 20 companies, that I'll be able to generate that return that I promised my investors. So to answer your question, it really depends. So I think certain impact funds, they go out and market a strategy that might have lower return expectations than that. And some of that is going to depend a little bit on, you know, what their capital sources are and what their fund size is. Because if you're investing from a smaller fund, right, you think about it, you sort of do the math, I don't need $1 billion exit maybe in order to generate, you know, 4x or 5x gross return on the capital base. I can invest a much smaller amount of money in companies that have smaller exit values and still do very well by my investors and great by my entrepreneurs. The last thing I'll say is, I think you're really, really smart to think about this question of calibrating your capital source with your mission. Because when that's out of whack, you just have all these unnatural pressures on the business, right? Some of which might have to do with mission, and, you know, how purely commercially and profit maximizing you might want to be. And some of it just might have to do with, like, if you don't get that right, you don't have an opportunity to really run and manage your business like you want to, because you've got someone who's never really going to be happy, right, with the way, with your vision and how you want to grow. Not every business should have a goal of, you know, becoming $1 billion plus sort of outcome, right? That's not a requirement. It's just a matter of finding investors who are good with something different. I don't know if I answered your question there, man.
I think you did, Lindsay. And Chef Chu, if I could add to that, before I came to East Bay, I spent almost 25 years as an investment banker. Mm-hmm. And the reason there's a need for investment bankers is we are matchmakers. We find the right investors for the companies. And I dealt with a lot of Native American companies. So I had to find very unique investors. And one of the reasons I've been very passionate about unlocking DAF dollars, and there are many DAF holders in the room right now, is because that is probably a better fit for a company like yours. Let's not forget, though, that Beyond Burger or Beyond Meat went public last year, but it took them a long time. That's the difference. It wasn't like a tech play where it was a very quick IPO. So I think you could become $1 billion business, but it's not going to happen as quick as a tech strategy. And so it's that pairing of investors that is important. And that's why I'm excited that maybe DAF money is right for you.
Yeah, and that's actually my next question. We did get some funding. A lot of our funds came from, we raised about $2 million so far. So we got some family office money from, like, one of them being Sobrato Foundation. So that was our first DAF investment. So one of the things, we met Arabella advisors, went through the whole process. And so the question would be, typically it's really hard to find DAF money because, me meeting the Sobrato Foundation came through One World, and I met John Sobrato, and it was like this really crazy experience. And, so how do companies like us find a DAF fund? Like, how does that work? Is it, how do we get access to piquing a DAF fund's interest, from a family office and things of that nature? How does that typically go? How's that typically done?
Well, Steve is on, Steve Roland's on, Roz Payne is on. There are two DAF holders that I know of. And I will say Steve found the company he's investing in at our last showcase. So you're in the right place for East Bay DAF money. But I don't know, Steve or Rosalind, did you want to take a shot at that one, or anyone? Let me, I think some people have put us on hold while they take a break, but Jerry, are you on?
I'm on.
Yay, there you are. Maybe we could ask you, given that we're a little bit of a nascent program at East Bay in terms of the impact investing for DAF holders. You work with DAF holders every day more than almost any of us. What do you think are the best ways for someone like Chef Chu to get exposure in front of DAF holders?
Well, I think that because all of our staff is in alignment with East Bay Community Foundation's mission, and particularly impact investing and inclusive economies, you're welcome to contact any of us at any time. The way we would work is, and this is actually a good time of year because we're working with a lot of our fund holders to create their strategic granting plan towards the end of the calendar year. And so it's really powerful, and you'll see a lot of dev staff on this call. It's really powerful for us to know all organizations that are in the area so that we have information on people doing great work in the community and who we can suggest to fund holders to grant to. We don't do anything like that. Like if a fund holder came to me and said, hey, I'm really interested in sustainable foods, then I could say like, oh, I know this great organization, and I could facilitate a conversation. And then we would do that way. But I'm sure all of us are happy to talk to anybody and learn more one-on-one, or if you want to share some information that we can then share with fund holders. There's no one right way, and there's no for sure way either. It's like a matching of intentions and philanthropic goals.
So there's a lot of relationship building, I guess.
It's all relationship building.
Yeah.
And Chef Chu, part of my mission personally, and both as a representative of East Bay, is the system we're trying to break and change has defaulted to that access to one group of people. Yeah. And it's time for all of us to have access. And so that's what we're really trying to do. It is relationship based, but I'm guessing that most of us who come from communities of color didn't sit around the table and talk about venture capital. And so we're really having to change a system. It's been a system that has perpetuated bias. And so I just applaud you and your work, and hopefully we can be part of the solution.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, and please, Chef Chu, feel free to reach out to me one-on-one. All of our contact information, all of the dev team's contact information is on the website.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay.
That'll be a blessing. That'll be a real blessing.
Good.
Yeah. We still have some time. I'm wondering if I can put Jean on the spot. She represents our largest staff holder, and they're also just starting to look at impact investing. And I wonder if you could just talk a little bit, as more of a corporate DAF holder, kind of what your process is.
Sure. Thank you so much for putting me on the spot. Hi, everybody. And Chef2, for one thing, I actually was messaging Sabrina. I would very much like to get everybody's pitch decks, but I would love to get yours in particular. I thought yours was a really great mixture of being really visionary and extremely specific, which I very much appreciate. So we have not done investments out of our donor advised fund. I work at Kaiser Permanente in Northern California, in a part of the world that we call community health. And typically what we have provided are charitable contributions to non-profit 501c3s. So you would not have been, you wouldn't be eligible, I don't think. I would imagine you're a for-profit entity, right?
Yes.
Yep. So up until now, we're just investigating whether we might be able to make investments which would have some rate of return, or we would talk with Val and she'd help us figure out how that has to get structured. And we would look to say, oh, okay, I would need to actually expand my thinking. And I think I'm pretty good at assessing programmatic structure and how to evaluate interventions that have a more public health perspective, which is a lot of what we tend to focus on with our grant making. And we would look to see, are they aligned not just with responding to the needs of our communities, but with a particular focus on addressing the health needs of low-income people, communities of color, and then so that, you know, that in some ways we don't expect it. We expect people to use our investments and not give them back, and that I feel pretty confident I understand how to do. I'm in a learning curve about, why would we select organization A over organization B? Does it, does it also advance our community health strategies? And in many ways, a lot of what you're describing is very compelling because it intersects with our approach to economic opportunity and creating good jobs, supporting diverse small businesses led by people of color. And of course, there's the health component. So that's a little bit mushy since we haven't yet done it. Okay.
That's fantastic. And I would add there's a climate component because there's not the methane gas from the organic soy plant-based foods. So thank you for sharing that. And I love that Kaiser is starting to explore how they might do some of these. And at our last showcase, I'm not sure it was you, Jean, but someone saw a company and you didn't make an investment, but you gave them some business. So I want to remind
Myers, my colleague, which is another possibility. But
right, so it's not always about direct money investments. It's expanding your business footprint.
Being a supplier to an organization as large as Kaiser has its own challenges, but I was thinking about that, and I was also wondering, and then you can cut me off. But I was wondering if we're allowed to ask questions. Can we ask questions back?
Oh yeah, and I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Do you see yourself in competition with places like Impossible Burger, or how do you relate to them? Because there's such a big presence.
Absolutely. I mean, our company was, we're kind of the David Goliath kind of story. We're a small company, undercapitalized, but we have a product just as good. We actually have more textures than some of these larger brands. We have products that I think would be perfect for the hospital system. I've been in the food industry about 15 years, and I've had 3 restaurants, and so I got a lot of experience in food service. So we're like pretty much right in position to support a Kaiser with a very unique offering. I think work really well in the hospital system. So yes, our product is very unique. We are looking to become a Beyond. We just want to do it in a way where missions first. And so we just want to go about a little bit differently than just simply, not to say that they are all profit, but our model is very working on democratizing access, minority communities. So you have to look at this whole story a little bit differently than just simply a growth play when you're looking at it holistically. And so, that's always been our vision, but we have a product that's amazing and customers love it. And we just know we've talked to some of the biggest, we're talking to Target right now. They love the product. And so it's a lot of growth for us. And so we got to get the right capital that's aligned. And we believe we can provide good metrics, like Mr. Lindsay was explaining. I think that's even possible in our model. And it might be a combination of some nonprofit stuff, since we do a lot of education. We can't actually, change communities without providing education, especially in minority communities. So there's a mixture of the for-profit work, but then there's educational work that could possibly be done through a nonprofit structure. So we thought about many of these models and, looking at a holistic approach to solve a big problem. And we believe that there's ways of accomplishing that. So, yeah.
one piece of, I thought your presentation covered most like important topics that, you know, an investor would want to have answers to. But one thing I thought you might consider adding is just something that says, here's how far the $7.5 million is going to take us. Just something that summarizes like the milestones. That way it's just a little bit more concrete. I know that you kind of mentioned some of the uses of funds, but like to maybe even go further, it's like $7.5 million should get us to EBITDA positive, or to 15 million in revenue, or whatever the number is, whatever the result is expected to be with that capital. I just find that's useful to kind of put that front and center, you know, for folks.
Well, anybody that's interested, you know, we have a deal room that we're going to be sharing tomorrow. So anybody that's definitely interested, we can definitely share our deal room with you guys. Just shoot me an email. I'll put your email information into the, you know, the chat, and then we will definitely contact you immediately with access to our deal room, which has some white papers that explain more of our growth strategy in detail and what it looks like. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Chef, and thank you everyone who was in our room. And I will say that we have 5 more amazing founders, so please don't leave us. Everyone's coming back into the main room. If you do need to take a quick break, it's probably a good time to do it now, but then we have a really good slate coming up.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I think we are all back in the main room now, and it is time to hear from our second round of entrepreneurs. So I am very excited to welcome up next Kingmakers of Oakland. Kingmakers is a social enterprise that was born out of Oakland Unified School District's Office of African American Male Achievement. Kingmakers' business model is founded on the belief that all Black males are brilliant, beautiful, and possess innate greatness. Their leadership development and systems change work supports and acknowledges the genius and value of Black boys.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. First and foremost, I want to thank the East Bay Community Foundation and One World for this extraordinary opportunity. Next slide, please. I'd like to start by sharing with you my journey in kindergarten through 12th grade public school education as an African-American male student who navigated an unsupportive school system that worked hard to break my spirit from elementary school through high school. I was a spirited boy who grew up in the public school system. The teachers did not understand how to work with spirited kids such as myself. In kindergarten through 2nd grade, I associated school with getting spanked because my teachers used spanking as their primary way to discipline me. In 3rd grade, my teacher put my desk in the coat closet. In 6th grade, I was banned from public school busing. While Jimmy may have gotten a gentle talking to, I got yelled at, paddled, detention, and/or suspended. When I entered 9th grade, my high school counselor told me that I didn't have what it takes to go to college. This affected my self-esteem, grades, relationship, and outlook on life. The counterbalance to my K-12 public school experience was going to boys and girls clubs, park and recreation, and summer camp. Next slide. The problem still persists. Actually, next slide. That was my story. There we go. The problem still persists. My experience with school from 40 years ago is still the experience of African-American males today. African-American male students are 3.5 times more likely to be expelled than white students for the same behavior. Less than 3% of teachers nationally are African-American males. White narrative curriculum creates negative internal identity for African-American students and BIPOC students. Teachers are not equipped with the cultural competency to engage, encourage, and empower African-American male students. Next slide. This is a systemic issue in schools that needs to be addressed and urgently. Nationally, 15% of African-American male 4th graders are reading at grade level. Graduation rates for African-American male students nationally are 55%, and the national juvenile arrests for African-American males are 500% more than white males. Next slide, please. Kingmakers of Oakland is a nonprofit organization born out of Oakland Unified School District's African-American Male Achievement, which I was the founding executive director in 2010 and served as the executive director through 2015, and then went on to launch the Office of Equity. Our work with Oakland Unified School District was successful, that we had districts from all over the country wanting to partner and learn from African-American male achievement. So in 2018, myself, Jerome Gordine, and Bayan Bakari began the 501c3 process for Kingmakers. This is a full circle moment for me, as when I was hired back in 2010, the foundation that I was an executive on loan, those dollars were actually housed with the East Bay Community Foundation. So here I am 11 years later, now being able to be on contract in supporting Oakland and districts across the country. Next slide, please. We use the metaphor healing the fish while treating the toxic ecosystem. Black boys are the fish and the school district is the pond or the toxic ecosystem. Our first step in cleaning the pond is transforming the adults. We work with the adults to change the conditions and culture within schools. We heal African-American students, who we refer to as kings, by building their sense of self-belonging through cultural identity and offering an array of classes taught by African-American male teachers. Next slide, please. The 6 core areas that we work with schools and districts to transform the systems, structures, conditions, and culture to empower kings are culturally relevant curriculum and pedagogy. We've shown that students who have participated in our classes graduated, increased the graduation rates, increased grade point average, and reduced their dropout rate, incidence of high school dropout. The second driver, recruiting, training, and retaining Black male teachers. Our third driver that we work with school districts is around elevating youth voice and increasing leadership opportunities for our kings. Our fourth driver, we increase and work with districts to increase authentic community and family engagement. Our fifth driver is narrative change, building asset-based mindsets and narratives around Black men and boys. And what binds all of this together is we initiate policies that build durable systems and structures that support and empower our kings. Next slide. Kingmakers has already begun supporting new district partners and building a national presence in the field. We have 15 staff serving 7 districts presently in California and Washington, a $3.4 million operating budget. We've served over 5,000 leaders across the country through our convening since 2016, and we've also published 2 books. Next slide, please. Over the next 10 years, Kingmakers will support and influence 100 public school districts and communities across the United States, and fundamentally transforming the education system and culture to empower kings to achieve academically and master their cultural and self-identity. Next slide, please. Your support in contributing to our growth, legacy, and long-term success in the areas noted below is welcome and appreciated. The first area we're calling for your support is the acquisition of 27 acres in Mendocino County for our mindfulness, health and wellness, staff development, summer camp retreat center. The second area is establishing our base, our national headquarters in Oakland, through the acquisition of a design center that would be our Kingmakers headquarters, home to our music, film, and content development studios and lab, program space, office space, and training space. The third area we'd love for support is for all of you to register on our newsletter, attend our fall forums and spring symposiums, as well as possibly invest in $500,000 that would allow us to expand in a regional growth model with 4 districts in each region. Lastly, providing access to your network to help support the growth and expansion of Kingmakers of Oakland. Next slide.
Just as a time warning, we are at time.
And that's my time. Thank you very much. My contact information is right there. Look forward to those of you jump into our 20-minute breakout. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you. Let's give a virtual round of applause to Kingmakers. So our next presenter is Hella Nuts. Hella Nuts brand consists of ready-to-eat plant-based products and a late-night eatery. The heart of the business is their late-night eatery in Oakland, which provides the community with fresh, flavorful, and relatable plant-based eats. All Hella Nuts products are made with whole, organic, plant-based foods that are free from fillers, preservatives, and lab-created additives. Welcome, Hella Nuts.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for coming. Okay, and we can go to the first slide of our slideshow. There you go.
Hey everybody, welcome to our Nutty Buddy family. We are Hella Nuts, a hella vegan brand. Our brand consists of just the two of us without any staffing. I am Chef Mieko and this is Chef Cami. We manufacture ready-to-eat plant-based products and run a late-night eatery.
Next slide. Okay, this is my mom. Her name is Mieko. She has a background in implementing full-service kitchens in OUSD. In 2008, she began Imagine That Kids, which is a nonprofit that focuses on many of things, but one area it focuses on is nutrition. She is a recipe developer and nutrition advocate.
And this is Cami, my daughter. She's the executive chef. She's impacted food deserts in Oakland, California, studied agriculture business and renewable resources at LSU, and started the first garden at Inspire Charter School. And she is for the earth and for the people. Next slide.
So the soy is a really big problem right now in the plant-based community. And we really want to tackle that. Soy is damaging to our health and in the environment, and is helping speed up climate change. The reasons why we should avoid soy is because it is cancer causing, it causes fibroids, it displaces wild animals from their habitats, and it's also an allergen. Here is the problem number 2 right here is a popular vegan substitute that's filled with unpronounceable and numerous ingredients. Problem number 3 is there are very few ready-to-eat products that are free from soy and science. Currently, vegan products lack relatability to urban communities of color, and vegan products that are free from allergens tend to be flavorless. Next slide.
We are a brand that doesn't sacrifice health for flavor. Our products mimic flavors consumers can relate to while using whole, organic, local plant-based foods. Our commercial kitchen is completely powered by the sun. We are providing products that are free from allergens such as soy, gluten, and oil. Next slide.
Next slide. Okay, Hella Nuts is, nope, back one.
Here you go.
Hella Nuts is a 500 square foot plant-based eatery located in West Oakland, California. Up to now, the majority of our revenue has come from our eatery and is the heart of our brand. The eatery allows us to use R&D before manufacturing products. Our inspiration comes from what we miss and crave. We are a trustworthy brand. Customers enjoy seeing our ingredients on display and tasting our creative dishes. Currently, we have retail products consumers can enjoy nationwide. Next slide.
Here's our most popular retail product. Hella Nuts ground walnut meat replacement is no soy and no science. It is sold B2B, B2C, and also direct to consumer. It qualifies for the STAMP food stamp program. This product is available in liquor stores, in foods deserts, and is also available at natural food stores. The product is conveniently pre-seasoned and can be cooked within 15 minutes.
And this to touch on, you guys are probably wondering, like, what is this big Black man doing on our bag? And we just want to touch on this because we are trying to change the stigma of what vegan looks like, right? Because when you think of vegan, you think of like a skinny white woman. Like, you don't think a big Black guy would enjoy vegan products. So that's why we put him on the front of the bags, because we want everybody to be able to relate to our products. Next slide. So here are some dishes made with ground walnut meat. Walnut meat can be used for anything you would typically use ground beef for, or ground turkey, ground chicken. It's just like that. So pictured here, we have a few options. The first one is chili. The second one is shepherd's pie. And the third one is everyone's favorite, tacos. Next slide.
Pictured here are our other prepared retail products. These products have been tested with our customers and are ready to move to the next phase of manufacturing. From left to right, we have our baked halibut, which is made from celery root, our fried fish, which is made from banana blossoms, our burgers, which are made from beets, and our juice is made from hibiscus flowers, our egg scramble, and our cheesecakes are made from nuts and seeds. Once again, no soy, no science, no gluten. Next slide.
Next slide. So our market size, we want to be able to reach as many vegan and urban communities of color as possible. We know we can capture at least 2% of each market with the right help. So there are flexitarians, and it's rapidly growing in the US. 121 million are in our serviceable available market. There are 46 million Black Americans in the US, many of whom purchase products they specifically can relate to. 9.6 million vegans in the US struggle with cooking fast, healthy food. Next slide.
These are our list of our current retailers. At this time, we wholesale our products in 9 stores and it's available through consumers and on Amazon. Next slide.
Without any paid advertising, we have been featured in the following publications, which has helped our direct-to-consumer sales. We are flattered that PETA, the #1 vegan organization in the United States, continuously recognizes our products. Thankfully, because of these features, our customer acquisition cost is just 97 cents. Next slide. So the expansion, within our first month of sales, we were approached by Trader Joe's. However, we had to decline the conversation because we don't have the capacity to provide pallets of product with just us 2 people. With each additional employee, we can produce 96 bags of walnut meat a day, generating about $162,000 worth of sales in a year. And that's just with this one product. We strive to provide jobs in our community that have a real impact on the world. Next slide.
We will use these funds for a manufacturing facility, key hires, and distribution and marketing. Next slide.
Okay, and how can you guys help? We need your help with connecting with local organic farms and gardens. We want the community support and we want to be able to help our community's economy. We need help bringing more awareness to our brand. So many people do not know we exist and so many people don't know that there is vegan late night options and that we have ready to go products. We are only a team of 2 people doing every single thing from cooking, cleaning, accounting, marketing, and more. And we feel like we can be a bigger brand with marketing help and expertise. We need local entrepreneurs to know that they have a safe space to sell their arts and eats and products right here in Oakland. Pictured here is our parklet that we have outside. And the parklet can be transformed into the perfect pop-up shop for anybody that has a business. So we just want to put that out there as well. So thank you guys for listening to us. And that is Hella Nuts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hella Nuts. Let's give them a virtual round of applause. So our next presenter is Jubilee. Jubilee is a platform and network that aims to increase equitable access to healthcare to ultimately improve healthcare outcomes for marginalized and underserved groups by using membership and subscription-based platforms. Jubilee simplifies the process of finding culturally responsive healthcare providers in medicine and mental health while providing online communities with peer support to help communities thrive. Welcome, Jubilee.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm so happy to be here. Hi, everybody. I'm Sorrel Robertson. I'm a psychologist and also a PhD candidate at UC Berkeley. I'm also the founder of Jubilee. We're an early stage health tech company with a social mission to improve access, equity, and healthcare outcomes for underserved groups. Next, please. And next, please. Thank you. We're both a patient and provider engagement platform, a network, and an online community that's designed for anyone and everyone. Next, please. But especially for marginalized groups who have historically had a harder time accessing healthcare services. We know that 1 in 5 people suffer from a mental illness. 389 million people saw a doctor just last year. When we disaggregate the data by different groups, we know that less than 1 in 11 Latinx Americans with a mental health disorder reach out to mental health professionals. African Americans are 20% more likely to experience serious mental health issues compared to the general population, yet we're the least likely group to seek out treatment. Asian Americans have a 17.3% lifetime rate of any psychiatric disorder, yet they're 3 times less likely to seek mental health services. LGBTQIA+ adults and youth are twice as likely than heterosexual adults and youth to experience a mental health condition. Next, please. Finding culturally responsive healthcare providers in mental health and in medicine can be such a challenging and daunting process, especially for people of color and the LGBTQIA+ community. Next, please. For providers, getting advice from other clinicians and outside referrals for clinicians both within and across specialties can often be a pretty cumbersome task that's limited to one's own professional network. Next. Cultural responsive training is often inconsistent and sometimes non-existent for healthcare providers. I know these pain points from my own firsthand experiences, both personally and professionally as a psychologist. Next, please. We've also confirmed these as significant problems without adequate solutions for users through a rigorous customer discovery process supported by the National Science Foundation, with over 200 people from our target market who have signed on as early adopters and beta users. We also have 2 health clinics in the East Bay that have signed on as early adopters and 2 more in the pipeline. Next, please. Jubilee is the only membership and subscription-based platform that trains medical and mental health providers in cultural responsiveness and simplifies the process of finding these providers using our unique research-informed algorithms and artificial intelligence. Next, please. AI will be used to connect the dots for our users based on the data they provide to save them time. Next, please. Our mission is to expand access to healthcare for underserved groups, to increase the percentage of underserved populations that not only seek treatment, but complete treatment, and ultimately to improve the efficacy and effectiveness of treatment. Next, please. I have a strong and intentionally diverse team working with me with expertise and years of experience in tech, sales and marketing, and healthcare. Next, please. We received 63 applications for 2 open positions with us just over the past 4 months. Next, please. And over the past 12 months, we've been supported by Blackstone Techstars, Berkeley Skydeck, the National Science Foundation, Tech Futures Group, and most recently, Pharrell Williams Black Ambition Prize. Next, please. Our B2C revenue streams include membership fees for users and providers that will give them access to our premium proprietary features and also access to the Jubilee community. Next, please. Our B2B revenue streams include fees for the training modules for health systems, hospitals, clinics, and private practices. The global patient engagement market size was valued at $15.1 billion in 2020, and it's projected to grow at 21.4% over the next 7 years. Next, please. We soft launched our web app back in August. We're currently in our beta phase and will be officially launching next month in October exclusively to the East Bay with a plan to roll out Jubilee state by state with states that have the highest concentrations of people of color. We then plan to launch our mobile app in January of 2022. Our exit strategies include either an IPO or acquisition from a health system or health insurance company. Next, please. We're currently raising $750K in pre-seed funding for a 12-month runway. We plan to be income positive after year 1 post-launch. You can support us by sharing or providing funding opportunities, referrals for AI developers, warm intros with insurance companies and health systems, by following us on social media, and by joining our email list on our website. Next, please. Join us as we revolutionize the healthcare experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sorrel, and a big round of applause. We're getting lots and lots of comments just stressing the need for this sort of system. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd love to welcome Lena Ghanem up from Saba Grocers Initiative. Saba Grocers Initiative is a grassroots initiative of corner store owners in Oakland founded in 2020. Their mission is to shift liquor stores to community stores by increasing produce inventory and healthy products on the shelves of small businesses. Saba works with each corner store owner on a transition plan to increase healthy produce in a safe and responsible way, considering market growth strategies and community engagement tools to anchor each corner store as a grocery store. Welcome, Lena.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Lena Ghanem, the Executive Director of Saba Grocers, which is a grassroots-led solution to Oakland's food system challenges. I started this initiative by organizing corner store owners on a campaign to influence the city of Oakland's budget process, and specifically on the use of its soda tax in May 2019. Next. There are 120 corner stores in Oakland owned by Muslim and Arab owners, many of which are second and third generation Oaklanders and have been operating business for 40 or 50 years at times in the neighborhoods they currently live in. And as an Arab American woman with established relationships in this community, I led this organizing campaign, and we won a budgetary allocation from the city of Oakland for a pilot program of $200,000, which in effect seeded our organization. Next. During the campaign, we learned through store owners a number of barriers they face when trying to acquire healthy produce. Most importantly, that there's a lack of produce distribution services for corner stores because of their scale. With that information, we started a pilot program and established a collective purchasing agreement and distribution network for 5 stores, which allows our small businesses to access the economy of scale, and developed with that developed a collective banking tool as well for 26 stores that we offer to residents to use and shop at local SAPA participating stores. Next. During our pilot phase, we did survey and continue to survey our customers. We can share that 1/3 of residents most frequenting our stores are on the state food benefits program called SNAP and EBT, and that the biggest age bracket we serve are youth ages 12 to 22 years of age. And this information is helpful for us in strategizing for the future because it shows the impact we can have on health equity for our city. Next. Over the last year, our collective purchasing agreement and produce distribution grew from 5 stores and into 11 stores. Through this service, we placed 68,000 pounds of produce on the shelves of stores that previously had 0 produce inventory. Our store owners also collectively purchased $38,000 worth of produce, which $38,000 worth of produce, which for a small store averaging 600 to 800 square foot of retail space, this is a milestone we celebrate. We also have distributed $250,000 to residents over the last year to shop healthy and shop local through our banking tool. Next. Within the next year, we do plan on honing in on 3 main areas of work. To expand our collective purchasing agreement and produce distribution to 25 stores, and to effectively access the economy of scale at a bigger extent than we're currently doing, and to source from BIPOC farmers, which we already started exploring. We also plan to expand our banking technology from 1,000 residents to 10,000 residents over the next year, and provide relevant and methodological research on local food systems change from the perspective of immigrant entrepreneurs operating along the entire length of the food chain. We plan to couple our research with the purchase of a corner store that's existing in Oakland and turn it into a model store for store owners to witness the alternative business model based on health and wealth, and to use it as a training location for new clerks of refugees and immigrant backgrounds that are moving into this line of work. We are currently operating as under a nonprofit fiscal sponsor, but all 3 areas of work I just mentioned, we are exploring to become a social enterprise. So different types of financial models are being considered for our growth. Next. Finally, I have an amazing support system and team of individuals, including my co-founder, Deifallah, who comes from a corner store owner family and history of employment as a clerk in West Oakland 15 years ago when he first migrated to Oakland. We both work with an inspiring team of advisor and advisory board members, many of which you may know, but we have the support, and I want to shout out for Nina Ishikawa, the ED of the Berkeley Food Institute. We also have Annie Campbell-Washington, the council member who authored the soda tax in Oakland in 2016, way before we started, and store owners and the leaders of our local mosques. Next. Finally, there's many ways you can support us today. We have been bootstrapping this initiative from the start, and we're really looking to grow our team and grow our impact. We are fundraising for the purchase of a store and the expansion of our distribution system. Our current fundraising goal is $750,000, which we're bringing here today. And beyond the dollar, we are searching to hire for a farm direct purchasing coordinator and a marketing volunteer. You can connect with me on this email on the screen. You can also, if you're local and you're in Oakland, would like to take a tour, please drop me an email. I'm happy to arrange for something like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lena, and another round of virtual applause for this amazing initiative. Thank you again. And I'd love to welcome up our final presenter, Hayati. Hayati is here representing Neologic's Engineering Labs, which aims to introduce more low-income people of color, especially women, into the fields of engineering, technology, and entrepreneurship. Neologics has two goals: to give the underserved community an opportunity to own homes and become positive influences in their own communities, and to diversify the STEAM workforce so that dynamic cultures and communities can be represented. And Hiade, I'm sure that you will explain what STEAM is to everybody. Take it away.
All right, but firstly, I want to say thank you to East Bay Community Foundation for including me in today's showcase. I really appreciate the investors that are here. And thank you so much to the inspiring presenters. It's been so inspiring to see you, and I hope to get to where you are one day. And so I wanted to get started first on just explaining how to say a word in Otomi. Otomi is a Mexican Indian dialect and tribe where my family's from, and it means the sun, okay? So everybody say, it's a karate chop sound. Do the karate chop sound, say yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now say the. All right, now put them together, say hiadi. And that's my name, that's how you pronounce my name. It means the sun in Otomi. And I'm a proud educator. I've been educating for over 12 years. I was a counselor for homeless youth in San Francisco for over 5.5 years. And now I'm a maker educational consultant focusing on engineering, design, manufacturing. I've been doing that for a little over 6 years, and just like Charles and Precursor, 6 years. And I was born and raised in East Oakland, super proud of my roots in all forms. And when I was a kid, I was inspired by camps that I was in, like at Centro de Juventud and other places like that, similar to Boys and Girls Club. Next slide, please. So I want to focus on kids age 7 through 15. I'll be working with, focusing on getting more girls and people of color into STEAM, into STEM. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We use that all the time. But now we're trying to use STEAM more, which includes arts, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. It's a way to be more design-centered, design-focused. So here we'll be learning 2D and 3D design to be making things on digital manufacturing machines like 3D printers and laser cutters. And because right now tech needs, I think, more heart and more ethics and more like cultural understanding and awareness, we're going to be implementing all that into our summer camps. This is what we're going to be doing, summer camps. And we're going to need supportive and caring adults who we already have. And we're going to be doing enrichment programs also in the summer camp, like gardening, cooking, playing fun games outside. It is summer anyways, right? So along the team is my partner, Amelia Greenland, who was a biology teacher. We met at my makerspace at Castlemont High in East Oakland. She was a biology teacher, and now she runs an edible garden landscaping business, and she'll help with the enrichment side of the program. Just like Eva said earlier this year when I ran my summer program, I wish it was still going on as well. So next slide. So 3 things. We'll be mostly making. We'll be making using design thinking, exploratory inquiry design. They'll be learning that the process is not perfect nor seamless, but we're going to be making cool things. They'll be similar to this lamp. This is one of the projects. Is a laser cut lamp with 3D printed components. They'll be able to make it and take it home. And in the meantime, it takes a few steps to even get there. So I'm really proud of their work. They'll be able to take things, anything that they make, they'll be able to take. They'll be able to see their work at home. They'll be able to show it to their family, their friends. They'll be super proud. And that's what we want. We want them to be empowered to do their work. And then they'll be able to sell things. For some students, there'll be an opportunity to sell some of their work, because that's what I'm trying to do. As you see in the picture at McClymonds, I was able to teach folks to make things, sell them, and make money. So this is my way of creating a workforce, strong workforce for the future, and creating future entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. So, so we have a 3-pronged approach, right? It's not only just the fun STEAM workshops that are relevant, effective, high tech. We'll also be having support from TAs. I teach a Laney class in engineering and carpentry. And some of my students, I'm already kind of gearing them up to be able to teach and support with one-on-one instruction to the students in next summer. Maybe I was thinking of Chris Chapman, maybe we can reach out and connect some way with Kingmakers, because I definitely heard of y'all and I'm trying to create similar things, but getting more kids into STEM and STEAM. The second thing is the sweet spot. We need a good location, somewhere that mixes a diverse background of like communities, folks with high income, low income, and looking to create a bridge to connect folks from the flatlands of Oakland to the nice, the hills of Oakland. And so it's this mind, body, and spirit approach. Those are the 3 dimensions that make up 3D Maker Camp, right? That's what the focus is, where it's all about learning cultural awareness, getting open minds, crossing bridges, right? Cultivating connections. This way, folks that are in the program, the kids, are less likely to get into trouble and more likely to strengthen Oakland, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to improve my community of Oakland. I love it. Next slide. So help me make an impact here. So we need some space. We need a workshop, a warehouse for the program next year. We need space for an outdoor growing area for kids to be able to play outside. We need a space with some room. So we need help with making that happen. Of course, financial support works because we need to pay our staff. I'm tired of working in nonprofits and stuff, and where folks don't get paid enough. So let's keep this going. Let's keep this moving. Please share also with your networks. Join me in the breakout session after this. Let's make some things in the laser cutter. And yeah, so appreciate it. Next slide. Last slide. And from my partner Amelia and I, and our newest born baby Sana, which means the moon in Otomi, really appreciate you being here. Connect with me online. Here's my contact information, and looking forward to hearing from you and growing with you. And let's make Oakland better. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that amazing energy to close out our entrepreneur presentations today, Hyadi. And big round of applause for Hyadi and all of our presenters. And I'm going to turn it over to Sabrina to welcome us into our next round of breakout sessions.
Thank you. What an amazing group of entrepreneurs. We're about to go into the second round of Entrepreneur Spotlight breakout rooms, just as we did earlier with the 5 presenters we just heard from. And for those who are recently joining us, these breakouts serve as spaces that are interactive for dialogue and getting to know the entrepreneurs. And each presenter has been invited to bring a couple of strategic questions that they would like to engage the audience in. And we'll have 20 minutes total in our breakout groups. So once again, if you click on the breakout room icon at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the different options. And please click join next to the breakout room of your choice. And just as before, there will be one breakout room that will stay in the main room, and that is Kingmakers. So if you'd like to join that session, please just stay here. If you're having trouble joining a breakout room, please just type in the chat the room you'd like to join, and we can manually put you into the room. So with that, please join your breakout room of choice, and we'll gather back in the main room in 20 minutes.
Sabrina, should I wait, or is there someone that will kind of initiate the prompt, or Angie? How would you advise?
Chris, I'll be moderating. I'm here. I'll be moderating, Chris. We just have to wait, just hang tight until everyone else kind of goes into their breakout rooms. And Daniel, when you think it's the right time, stop the screen share so that we can see everyone.
Thank you.
People actually know how to do it now. Val, it's easy. I would say if anybody has any specific wishes and can't figure out how to go, just drop it in the chat. But Val and Chris and everybody, I would say, take it away.
All right. Let me get to gallery view so I can see everyone. I cannot get to, oh, there it goes. All right. Well, thank you for staying with us. I know it's been a long day, but oh my gosh, I am so inspired. I think everyone else is probably feeling the same. Chris, awesome job. I don't know if you were able to see the comments because you were presenting, but so many people from our community were saying just the work you're doing is so needed and important, and just thank you.
Well, give thanks. It's not too often I have the opportunity to really give thanks to people that made it possible for us to be here. So as I see Sister Jean, Kaiser Permanente was one of the core foundational funders, just as much as East Bay Community Foundation was the host of these funds back in 2010. The investment that Kaiser made in Oakland as an ecology and the significant investment that really allowed us to grow out our manhood development program. I just want to shout out Eugene and the Kaiser community, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for philanthropy and the private sector investing in the system, definitely in that first 5 years. And so, yeah, I want to just lift up that appreciation as I see Kaiser, and I'm sure there's other folks, Bobby and Pope, who was with Oakland and now in San Francisco, keeping the work with San Francisco Unified. And we're, another one of our key partners. So, and Chef Chu, I just want to say, brother, I want you, I see you, I appreciate you. And just in the spirit of like interning, I would love to partner. We have several young kings that are aspiring chefs that are vegan. So I want to build with you, brother. And then I see my other co-founder, Jerome Gordine. He's stayed in the system and is building out the work that now I've left OUSD, but he's the systems leader keeping this work going. So I'll stop there and then I can pose questions or follow lead. I'm shouting out James too, man. Love camping, brother. So we're going to build on accessing that equipment. Love what you're providing the community, because I wasn't able to go to camp many times, so we did need to borrow from other folks. So just appreciated your vision. So Sister Valerie, do you want me to tee up the first? And hold on, and is that the tamales? Oh, I just want to shout you, Queen. I just can't wait to get some of those tasty tamales into our ether. So just so much goodness right here.
I agree, Chris. And I'm feeling the word that I'm feeling right as community. This is community. It's about business and growing and investing, but the way we're connecting, to me, I come from obviously an Indigenous Native American background. This is community. So I'm just thrilled to be here as a facilitator. I also want to thank Jean. She represents a huge support in the East Bay with her, all of her support from Kaiser and her staff and her team. And so it takes a village, right? And I want this to be, it's your time, Chris. So you can ask questions of the people in the room. They can ask questions of you. I'm really a little bit of a timekeeper, but I'm going to take a back seat and only intervene if I need to.
Well, in the spirit of, we have one, it looks like Keita, 7 Circles, would love maybe to start with the question that he has. And then I can go into my, I have 4 questions I can pose the group, but I love the idea of the fact that he's ready. So let's go. I'm gonna pass the baton to you, Brother Keita.
Thank you.
Did I get your name correct?
You. Yes, you pronounced it correctly, Keita. And my birth name is Chris as well. My mom loved that name, so that's as well. I went through African ancestry type of naming ceremony, and Keita is where that came from. What really drew me to your work was the type of offering that I am endeavoring to present to our people, and that is a retreat center. So, and for it to be an educational center, a platform for our boys, our young men to learn all of the facets about life that you're presenting to these young men. Budgeting, finance, career choice, that whole thing. And being able to learn in a retreat center environment in nature. So it's a balance, and being able to be clear-headed and think like that. So I'm the executive director at 7 Circles Retreat Center. It is near Sequoia National Park. It's 7circlesretreat.org. So I welcome you to come up to the retreat center, see how we're running it. I've been running it for 7 years. So any questions that you have about launching it, being a part of it, that whole thing, bringing in workshop leaders, just the whole gamut of it. Our center can host 50 guests. And we have, it's on 22 acres. We have 9 bedrooms, it sleeps 37, and then the rest is camping. And that brings us up to 50 during the warmer months. But as you guys are building out your plans to be on a retreat center, I welcome you to come and start your workshops here with us. Start your workshops, kind of get your feet wet, run some programs, and then when you do your build out for your own center, then you can just kind of move right in, already develop the marketing for it, the experience for it. So then when you do open up your own place, you just hit the ground running. So kind of experimenting with different programs and ideas where we're at, because that's exactly what I'm reaching out for. I'm reaching out to our people. We want to be the de facto retreat center for our people, for inclusivity. There's only 2 people on staff. It's me and my partner. My brother helps out for cleaning and things like that. So I really got excited when I saw that, because we don't have places like us that's just for us. So we're all over the place. We're with everyone. I mean, we have people coming, Buddhist meditation. We have everything coming through. We've had the Fresno men and boys come through. We've had a lot of Central Valley people come through, universities, USC, UCLA, everyone's come through our place. And that's why I also wanted to mention the brother who is doing the vegan. So what we're trying to do, we cook vegan meals. And what I like to do is to have our retreat center as a platform to get the products out. Because over the 7 years that we've had about 30,000 people roll through there. So I would love to be able to get information out to what you are all doing. So thank you very much, Chris, and more power to you. I think I direct message you my contact information. If not, I will. And hopefully we can connect and get together.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, brother, for seeing the synergy. Would be honored to leverage the facility to help catapult us into the reality of this mindfulness retreat, rites of passage center. And just from an equitable standpoint, I think one of the pieces that I lean into philanthropy around how do we address issues of wealth, kind of legacy inequity is we got to get 40 acres and a mule with interest. And so for us, the acquisition of real property, our corporate headquarters in Oakland, and then the retreat center in Mendocino, is something that the next generation will be able then to manifest, versus sometimes philanthropy, they make the big bets, but yet we can't keep the land or the physical edifice beyond the dynamic leaders or the infrastructure. And so would love to leverage your facility, brother, but also anyone else interested in helping make it the reality of this capital campaign to acquire these buildings would welcome support as well. But so maybe I start with the question. Yeah, so I'll read the question and I can give some context. But the idea was born in 2018. We had a fiscal agent, and I was still an employee with the district. So I want to thank Mayor Libby Shaft, whose attorneys helped me legitimately and with the utmost integrity transition out of the district and protect this separate 501c3 status, which was 3 years in the making. And so effective July 1st of 2021, we are now completely autonomous. We no longer have a fiscal sponsor. We have an extraordinary agreement with OUSD as we now contract out with 7 other districts. But what, in particular for the folks who, and I don't talk, I mean, I got a lot to learn on this VC, like Lindsay Lee, brother, when you were talking with my other brother, the Chu Chef, I was like, man, I got a lot to learn. So I want to connect with you, brother, so I can get schooled on the business acumen and language, because I think that's a barrier for many folks who are entrepreneurs, but we don't know all the talk. I'm a teacher in training. But what is the biggest threat to a startup nonprofit in this field of work, in knowing that this is our first fiscal year as an autonomous organization? And so given, we still don't have, the home office is my house, knowing we need a brick and mortar. Yeah, we are dynamic, but I would love just what are things we should be thinking about just to mitigate risk, just from the business standpoint. So biggest threat to a startup nonprofit in this work, really from a fiscal standpoint. So welcome any feedback from the genius in this room.
Lindsay, did you want to take that?
I don't know if I'm qualified to really answer all of Chris's question, but first of all, brother, I find you and what you're trying to build so inspiring. So really just want to acknowledge and appreciate you. You know, I feel so blessed to be able to work with inspiring leaders and founders, and I always find I learn so much from them than whatever knowledge I might have to impart. So don't give me too much credit. You're the expert really on what you're trying to do. I'd say one thing for you to think about more generally, and this is not specific to being a nonprofit organization, but just at a capital allocation level, right? You have this ambitious vision to, you know, own property, which I think is really fantastic. I would say, however, that it'll be interesting to see whether funders wouldn't prefer that you take those resources, because it's pretty capital intensive to go and buy a piece of property. I mean, essentially, as a leader, you're and CEO, you're kind of always saying, hey, where is the capital and resources best spent, right? If you put $20 million into program related things, those are, you know, is it possible that funders look at that and say, hey, I want to invest in that, as opposed to taking resources and putting it into a piece of land, which benefits the future of the organization, you know, but maybe they sort of look at it a little differently. Like, I just know for me, most of what I invest in, you know, personally, I obviously give money to various nonprofits, but if one of my founders said to me, hey, we're going to buy our building or I would probably kind of look at that and go, I don't know, man. We're still young. We just need to build our organization. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I'm sure you've thought a lot about this. It's just a quick kind of observation on my part.
No, I think, Chris, I'm going to build on that because I actually came from a background of financing physical real estate ventures for tribal nations. And I mean, they were gaming enterprises and hospitality hotels. I do think that what Lindsay says is correct. You got to build the organization. But when I look at the systemic bias that we face in this country, a lot of it has come from our lack of ability to own real estate, to own our land. Our land was taken from us. So that's a whole nother story, but it's a serious story. And I do feel that you're thinking the right way to build something that is generational facing and not just the quick business plan. In that spirit, though, if we go to terms and investments and how it all works, the one good thing is if you're buying a piece of land, you actually have security for the investor in that land. So when we buy a house, you know, the investor knows that if something goes wrong, they can, you know, put a lien on the house, or so there's some security for them. Mm-hmm. And my advice for you would be continue to think about buying the land, but then you will need a revenue stream to be able to pay back the debt, just like a house payment. And I believe there are business plans embedded in the work you're doing. As you're making kings, you know, can you have a placement agent that helps them find work and someone else is paying you for that, as well as continuing with donations. So kind of a side-by-side for-profit and nonprofit, because I do believe that you can realize your dream. The work is so important. I think what you're feeling in this room is everyone saying, this is our future. You know, you are addressing a problem that is about our legacies. So I just think you need to continue to think and live that dream.
Appreciate that. And wonderful feedback. We do. So knowing, I've been an entrepreneur for the last 30 years. And until someone said, Chris, you're an entrepreneur, you just do it for other people. And so having foundations fund most of the projects in my evolution. And then the one thing I have learned from philanthropy, though, is 3 to 5 years, their portfolio changes. And I've seen in particular Black, Brown, Indigenous organizations, then literally they grow, and then philanthropy goes to another pivot, and then it sunsets. So we're ramping up with our, all of our district partners have skin in the game. So contracts vary from $50,000 to $250,000. We are creating the internal apparatus for content generation curriculum. So we have 7 accredited A through G graduating African-centered courses that we can monetize. So we're building out the apparatus for culturally responsive content that is academically rigorous, that can be entered into districts, much in the way that Scholastic, Pearson are a billion-dollar industry for these districts, because I've seen what we spend on curriculum. So we are building that as a way to sustain a fee for service, as well as our, we've done 3 albums, we have 2 films. So this idea of content, and we just partnered with the MBA, just to give some texture, what we realize is our narrative, and this is true for our Indigenous brothers and sisters too, like it's just been erased and it's been replaced with the Eurocentric narrative, and the structure perpetuates that on all these different levels. So if we could build the internal apparatus where we charge, a fee for that, we feel that there's about, we can kind of wean ourselves off of philanthropy but have the self-sustaining piece. And that's where then, Brother Lindsay, the importance of having land for me, and I want to be in right relationship, because the land we're talking about actually is in the Miwok community. We're in Ohlone land here. So I just want to recognize how we're in, and I just, about another conversation I want to have with you later, though, is being right with the land that was taken away. But in the spirit of the legacy, really making sure I have 6.5 years in my role. And my role is to build out, we're going to be in 100 districts, and we're going to have brick and mortar and this land. So when we pass it to that next generation of extraordinary 25 to 30-year-olds, they actually have something, again, that no one can take away. And I've seen so many beautiful, brilliant people, though, come and go because they've never owned. So I'm going to figure it out. Lindsay, I think I have a lot to learn from you. The talk, the strategy, Val, I definitely want to get with you, sister, too, just to help coach us up, but very helpful. For us, but we are just thinking about fee for service, because we're 75-25 right now, philanthropy, 25% fee for service. And our goal is in 3 to 5 years is to be 80% fee for service and 20% philanthropy. And having our land, then we could rent it out. We can do what our brother Keita was talking about, in the sense of, we can generate revenue off of that is the plan. I know I got a lot of learning to do in between, but the vision is kind of uncompromising. So I'm gonna fight that good fight and align with people that get it, knowing it's really ancestral work. So, but any other genius?
Chris, feel free to reach out to me directly, man. I'd love to get together with you one-on-one. And there's a foundation too that you should know, that I'm very close to, who might be worthwhile for you to.
I'm gonna reach out to you. Absolutely, brother. If you can put your email in the chat, and then I know Queen Courtney was getting ready to sprinkle some genius, so I'm gonna pass the mic to the Queen.
No, hi Baba, Chris. Akil, my son, has been participating in years as a king, and I appreciate you and appreciate the work that you do. In fact, Akil is the primary source of my question, which is like, when you decide to create leaders, right? Akil and his friend had the George Floyd March at Oakland Tech, and 15,000 kids in Oakland and people in Oakland participated in that. When you think about monetizing leadership, what does that look like to you? And then how does your model incorporate this sort of entrepreneurship into into the Kings themselves? Like, how do they understand how to give back to the organization, and how do you educate them on, for example, like co-ownerships, or, you know, when they get to that place, and, you know, like how can you continue this cycle for the organization?
Love it. And we're thinking, and I heard a word, I don't necessarily know what it means, but what it meant to me, this circular economy is our role is engaging Kings in the classroom to get them to understand this country and the culture and the school tells you to bury your crown in your pocket. You don't even know that you got a crown. So our first thing is to get your crown out your pocket. So getting our Kings and Queens empowered to understand who and whose they are. But through that, though, this circular economy, once we've engaged them in the classroom, our hope is, and that's why the chefs and Jane, we want to get you in. So right now we have a street team. So and we know, and we tell our Kings and Queens, you're either at the table or you're on the menu. So we put them on payroll with the stipend, with the way to elevate their voice and, you know, perpetuate the work that we're doing. But then within the cool milieu, we want them, if they're interested in the technology, then they work with George Hofstetter in the building out of our app or our learning management platform. If they're interested in finance, they connect with our finance team and our director of finance. If they're interested in curriculum, the goal, though, is we want to engage Kings in the classroom so they can manifest, have the entrepreneurial spirit, but see Kingmakers as an entry point to get resource in their pocket, to get mentoring support, to have this trajectory through school to either, you know, be self-sufficient, but best case scenario, they come back into the movement and continue it and just kind of perpetuate it on that level. And so that's kind of one way that we're building out this structure of, and yeah, I don't know if this, someone can tell me what circular economy is, but the idea for me is that you engaging them to see the potential, all things are possible. And when I've met and been blessed to teach at the Wheeler Prep School, or when I've gone to Brown, and now I had conversations with Bill Gates, people are so privileged. And when you're born in that, you just have full permission to do whatever. Even if even if you mess up, when it's time that you wake up, you have access to all this. And we're trying to create that same sort of infrastructure, that calibration around values, design principles, and that Calvary ain't coming to save nobody. We are the people we've been waiting for, but because we don't know who we are, we're grabbing stuff that ain't even for us. And so for us, we want to empower our Kings and Queens, ideally to get into the cool milieu. And if not, they're going out with James, or they're going out with Brother Keita. Like, we believe in this concept of Ubuntu. I am because we are because I am. May the circle be unbroken. So the idea, though, is to engage them into the network. And if they come up through cool, love. If not, they're connected to other folks in the community that love them, that see their value, their net worth, and, you know, they continue to grow in that domain. So hopefully that makes sense. Proud of your King and you, and thank you for just lifting that up. And please tell them I said hello.
We have thank you, Courtney. I want to make sure anyone else in the room has a chance to interact with Chris or answer one of his questions. We have about 2 minutes before we, 1 minute. Does anyone else want to say anything to Chris? Laura, you have anything to say? Laura's part of my team. She's amazing.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, Chris. So deeply inspired. I used to work with an after-school program in the Tenderloin, and I just appreciate. I'm moved by your courage and your passion, and just thank you. Anything we can do at the East Bay Community Foundation, just let me know.
Right on time. Well, I have tremendous respect too for Brother James Head. He's a big bruh, somebody that's, I've been honored to be in different shared space, but he has extraordinary grace. And I will reach out, Laura, because there's, I would just want to get back in the rhythm with you all too, given you all are right here. So thank you again for convening this space for all of us.
So people are coming back in. Thank you, Chris. I think a big takeaway from our session is just the desire to connect one another into relationships. you know, I think the investors in the room will say that a lot of investments are made because of authentic relationships, in addition to other finance factors and business models. So hopefully we can be part of a facilitation around lots of relationships. I heard food meeting programs and vendors, you know, it wasn't all about finance. So that was exciting. As we wrap up the day, I want to encourage everyone to get in touch with us. All of our email addresses are available, and we're happy to connect you to one another. We welcome further dialogue. We know it was a long day, and yet it also seems kind of short in that I feel like we would love to be in the room with one another and be able to really kind of interact and create those relationships even further. But I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I didn't know if I would make it through without crying today, and I did not. I cried many times, and they're good tears. We have a word in the Cherokee Nation, Gadugi, and it means doing things in a good way. And everyone today came here in a good way, and I appreciate that. We wanted to ask you for a favor. As we close, we wanted you to take your video and mute off. And Angie, your idea is that everyone will together express gratitude and love as we end the program. So if everyone could take off your mute, put on your video, and Angie, do you want to lead us through?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, maybe a big round of applause to you all. And I want to hear a lot of clapping and just thank you to all the speakers.
You have your headphones on?
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. I think we can do something cheesy that I learned from my friends at SBI Women, which is basically the love swoosh, because there's so much stuff going on in this world right now. So if you would love to just use your hands, put them together. This is a little gratitude from all of us to all of you and everybody here. And when I count to 3, you all gonna open up your hands and sending it through this beautiful smiling faces here on the screens. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you all. Yeah. And there is a survey. One more small piece of housekeeping. There's a survey we'd love to have you fill out. It will really help us as we define the program more and more. But just sending so much love. This was a lot of time commitment, and thank you for being here with us.